How
you
would
mentioned
that be
that.
addressed?
Yeah,
It
and
could
that's,
be a nonprofit, I don't know.
well, that's.
How would that, the owner doesn't live there.
Mr. Engelbrecht is shaking his head no,
Okay.
so he's.
It is, for sure.
It is, it's an owned property, and there are two ways that things fall under the codes. This is going to handle the short-term rentals.
Okay.
Right now, we're trying to deal with that with codes with garbage at all.
Thank you.
And we have 4 minutes. Anything else? Are we okay, the members of the committee, are we okay with sending this to the council for approval tonight, pending those 2 changes in the ordinance? Is there a motion?
I'll make a motion to submit to council with recommended changes.
A motion's been made by Mr. Cooney. Mr. Rock has seconded. All in favor, say aye. Aye. The motion passes unanimously. The other items that we have, we'll get to pick up, I guess, in September, unless we end up having a meeting over the summer. Oh, goody. And if the members would like to tackle some of these things, I would like to make the members aware that I have spoken with Mr. Cicero, and I'm going to be looking at the Mayfield Heights rental ordinance. There's some items in there that we think may be more appropriate to go through our rental codes that will give us a little bit more power where issues have begun to come up. So I'll be sending you good summer reading, because we know we all love to do summer reading, either on iPad or in paper. I will entertain a motion to adjourn. Mr. Rock has made the motion to adjourn. The meeting is adjourned at 6:58 p.m. And I thank everyone who came on Zoom and those of you in the audience, and I thank the resident for coming and letting us know what's going on.
Hey, John. Standing in front of the camera, podium really quick so I can make sure everything's in frame. Here, wait, let me grab my.
Move a little bit. Bring it back. Thanks. There we go. That's all good.
From my height, does it do this? Because I'm 6'5".
Well, I just wanted to have like a full frame, just so because that's why I chose you because you're the tallest person. Yeah.
Doesn't matter to me.
What?
Doesn't matter to me.
You can sit up. You guys take this one. Looks great, thank you.
Can we and thank everybody for coming. We have a full house today. It is Monday, June 17th. That was our last council meeting before our summer recess. Mrs. Thomas, will you call the roll?
Mr. King?
Here.
Mrs. Zack? Here. Mr. Fleming?
Here.
Mrs. Wise?
Here.
Ms. Rudd?
Here.
Ms. Marshall? Here. Ms. Weiser?
Here.
Would everybody stand for the Pledge of Allegiance?
United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
I'm just going to make a motion, since we have many audience members, if we can move up letters A and B. The promotional swearing in of police officer Joe Respondic to the rank of lieutenant, and the swearing in of new hire patrol officer Chad Goldberg. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Mrs. Thomas, will you call the roll?
Mr. King?
Aye.
Mrs. Zack?
Aye.
Mr. Fleming?
Aye.
Mrs. Wise?
Aye.
Ms. Rudd?
Aye.
Ms. Marshall? Aye. Ms. Weiser?
Aye.
So raise your right hand and repeat after me. I, Joe Respondic, do solemnly swear that I will support the Constitution
that I will support the Constitution
and laws
and laws
of the United States of
of the
America,
United States of America,
the Constitution
the Constitution
and laws
and laws
of the State of Ohio,
of the State of Ohio,
and the Charter
and the Charter
and ordinances
and ordinances
of the City of University
of the
Heights,
City of University Heights,
together
together
with the regulations
with the regulations
of the Department of Police,
of the Department of Police,
of the Division of Public Safety,
of the Division of Public Safety,
as Lieutenant
as Lieutenant
of the University Heights Police Department,
of the University Heights Police Department,
for so long as I may hold such position. So help me God. Congratulations. If you'll raise your right hand and repeat after me. I, Chad Goldberg, do solemnly swear that I will support the Constitution and laws of the United States of America, the Constitution and laws of the State of Ohio, and the Charter and ordinances of the City of University Heights, as well as the regulations of the Division of Police of the Department of Safety thereon. In my office as patrol officer for so long as I may hold such position. So help me God. Congratulations.
Congratulations. So we do not have any minutes for this meeting. We're on to number 5. Are there any additions or removals from the agenda or referrals to committee? Oh, I'm sorry, yes. Is there a motion to table the minutes? So moved. Is there a second?
Second.
Mrs. Thomas, will you call the roll?
Mr. King?
Aye.
Mrs. Sacks?
Aye.
Mr. Cooney?
Aye.
Mrs. White?
Aye.
Mr. Ross?
Aye.
Ms. Marshall?
Aye.
Ms. Weiser?
Aye.
And now we're on to any additions or removals. Okay, are there any comments from the audience? Comments are up to 5 minutes. If you could please state your name and address.
Tina Kanabayer, University Parkway. Tonight I'd like to connect just a couple more dots relating to the comments that I've made here since October, when I first spoke about the safety issues related to traffic and parking congestion on our block, especially during the school year. Since October, awareness of the contributing factors has definitely increased all around. Our children waiting for their school buses know to watch out for the trash buggies on pickup days. Parents are keeping watch and often are out waiting with their children. The trash buggy drivers have been really terrific about keeping an eye out for the kids while on their routes. And again, Mr. Pennington deserves our thanks for his help on this. So really, the only variable that still has not been addressed is the excessive traffic and parking on a street that was neither built for nor ever intended to handle the volume that is often present. Mr. McConville had just begun to give guidance on this when he left as law director. So I'm hoping that with Mr. Bryan's help, perhaps a way to ameliorate the situation can finally be found. I will continue to advocate for the safety of the children on my block, as well as to help bring awareness to other safety-related issues in the city, such as the need to improve the intersections at Washington and Miramar and at South Belvoir and Silsbee. It is my sincere hope that there will be effort made to move forward with such smaller but still important safety-related projects, with the long-delayed issues remedied, such as the corrected notice of exterior inspection issued, the Abbey property sale closed for the sake of enlarging the future City Hall campus, the recycling saga mercifully coming to a close this fall, please God, and the University Square project underway. We residents who follow City Hall goings-on will continue to watch and speak up when it's warranted. Wishing you all a great summer.
Thank you. Are there any other comments from the audience?
Hello, I'm Faye Benson, 3621 Cedar Brook Road. I'm a member of the Juneteenth Committee, and I'd like to say thank you to the mayor, vice mayor, all of the council people who attended, and everyone else who attended. It was a very nice affair. I was really proud to be a part of it. I was proud of the effort that was put into it. I love that there was a tent for the council people went along. There was also one for the city. I saw many of my family members and friends who I had not spoken to about it there, and we had a good time. I was really impressed that there were 2 stages. There were lots of activities going on, and one didn't interfere with the other. Also, I felt safe. COVID and the violence in the United States of America has changed the way I live my life. I don't attend many crowded affairs, and I was reluctant to stay because of it. But I really felt good. I had a really good time. And I'd like to thank Jeff for all the hard work he did, along with everybody else. And I hope that it will continue to be a community affair, which is what is from my heart. It's for everybody in University Heights. I love our city, and I will continue to work to make sure that we're a community.
Thank you.
Good evening, Mayor, Council. My name is Ruben Moultrie, 2463 Johnny Road. And I'd just like to reiterate what the citizen just mentioned, that we had a great time yesterday at Juneteenth, and was peaceful. Everybody seemed to enjoy themselves. And for one thing, I like to say, I worked in various communities where they had festivals and different events, such as our Juneteenth. But we had participation from everybody. It'd be great in the future, if you have councils showing their presence also. I know I saw the mayor out there yesterday. But it'd be great if we had full participation from everybody. And that's just my observation. Like I said, I worked in different communities where we have events, and I know there was a certain point in time during the event where leadership was introduced to the residents. And I think something like that could be put in place for next year. Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you. Just as a side, all of the council members were in attendance there.
Oh, I apologize. Thank you. I didn't. I must have came late, I think.
Are there any other comments? Okay. Reports and communications from the mayor and taking of their action there.
Yes, thank you. Echoing some of the comments we just heard, the June 2024 Juneteenth celebration was a complete success. We had a family-friendly, well-organized event that was entertaining and educational. Yes, it was hot outside. Many vendors selling food and drinks sold out. The music was fantastic. The feedback from attending residents was all very positive. We were joined by public officials, including our city council, Cleveland Heights University Heights School Board President Jody Serini, State Representative Juanita O'Brent, South Euclid Economic Development Director Michael Love. There may have been others, but I know I saw all of you and them. Thank yous go out to our event sponsors, Dollar Bank, who sponsored the main stage, and AIDS Task Force of Greater Cleveland, who sponsored the second stage. Thank you to Jeff Engelbrecht and the Juneteenth Committee, who have made the University Heights Juneteenth celebration the biggest and best event in Greater Cleveland for 3 straight years. O.C. May Neal, Kelly Thomas, Tekla Tichette, Derek Williams, Ron Collier, Dr. Alicia Sloan, Faye Benson, who you heard from, Anisha Hamilton, and Eric Williams. Thank you to Kira Cotton and Marcus Allen Moore for emceeing the event. Also, my thanks to Deanna Brenner Fisher, Mike Cook, and Jackson Parasuti for working the event. My thanks to the University Heights Fire Department, Police Department, and Service Department. We had no security issues to speak of. We had a safe and incident-free event, and I'm already looking forward to next year. On June 9th, we held the second annual Bike with the Mayor event in our city. It's part of Cuyahoga County's continuing series of Bike with the Mayor events. My thanks to Heights Bicycle Coalition, Councilmember Brian King, for co-sponsoring the event with the county and the city. We had over 30 riders of all ages. We were joined by County Executive Chris Romaine for the ride. We were delighted to have him, especially as we visited residences in our city with solar panels and the community garden at Girardi. Yoga in the Park began on Tuesday, June 11th at the Walt. We had a good turnout this first week, and we will be back there Tuesday, June 18th. That's tomorrow night at 6 p.m. The next summer concert is this Thursday, June 20th, 7 p.m. at the Walt. Monica Robbins and the Whiskey Kings. In my May 20th, 2024 Mayor's Report, I reported out that Congresswoman Shontel Brown had selected our sewer project as one of her 15 community project funding requests that she was advancing to the House Appropriations Committee for consideration in the amount of $1.1 million. Since that time, Senator Sherrod Brown has also advanced that project. Though again, this does not guarantee funding, this is a strong project, and we keep gaining support, and we will keep advocating for this project. And indeed, we've gotten Columbus's attention as well. My thanks to State Representative Juanita Brent and State Senator Kent Smith for getting our sewer project accepted for state funding in the one-time Strategic Community Investment Fund in the amount of $700,000. The bill with our project is scheduled to pass the State General Assembly on June 26th. Last week, I attended the Empowering Local Leadership Conference in Washington, D.C., presented by Greater Cleveland Partnership, in partnership with Cuyahoga County Mayors and City Managers Association. While I was there, among other things, I met with Congresswoman Shontel Brown and thanked her for her support of our sewer project. I also took a White House briefing on several Biden administration initiatives, including one that I intend to incorporate into our city's long-range capital planning. The proposal is progressing nicely with a proposed 325 to 375 additional student beds in the form of 1, 2, and 3-bedroom student apartments over retail space that will serve the entire community. The administration is supporting the project and will continue to work with John Carroll University to help bring it forward as a strong project beneficial to the whole community. Finally, last December, the city honored Mayor Susan Infeld with a dedication of the gazebo at the Walt in recognition of her service to the residents of University Heights. I'm pleased to report that the plaque commemorating the dedication has arrived. We will be getting dates from Mayor Infeld as to her availability for a ceremony at the park unveiling the plaque, and we will then do a poll of council members and announce a date. Thank you. This concludes my report.
Thank you. City Council does have a report. Since this last meeting before summer recess, I just wanted to review some of the highlights of this year. An RFP for facilities was just released. The Abbey property was purchased, making the way for facilities to move forward. Loose recycling will be implemented in September or October. The tennis and pickleball courts are scheduled to be resurfaced. We have a mental health employee on the safety force now. We have an IT service contract as well, and our labor union contracts have been finalized. I also want to update the residents that our county council person, Cheryl Stevens, presented a disturbing resolution that was thankfully pulled from being voted on regarding divesting the county from Israel bonds. There was a large turnout from this community against this at the last county council meeting, and it was seen as a disruption and crack in our diverse community. I'm glad that the councilperson Stevens and councilperson Kelly heard the residents. Finally, just some future updates. There is a short-term rental legislation on the agenda today, which will alleviate issues in our city that we are having with Airbnbs that our city is having with short-term rentals throughout the city. And finally, the tech committee will resume after new members will be nominated by the mayor. That is what the committee is waiting for to resume deliberations. Are there any other council members that want to give a report? Yes, Ms. Weiser?
Vice Mayor, last week I received a report of a dog attack on Edgerton Road, and I have a number of letters to read regarding it that residents sent me that they asked to be read into the record. To preface it, I would like to begin. There is a rental unit on Edgerton where the tenants own 2 pit bulls. And pit bulls as a breed are not necessarily vicious. Unfortunately, this owner does not keep them under control, and they've been running loose. So often our residents try to deal with issues without contacting City Hall. And I have a feeling this has happened in the past. After the attack, and I've referred this information to both Mike Cicero, our prosecutor, and I've also reached out to Chief of Police Dustin Rogers, and both of them have been exceptionally helpful. What happened was there is a woman who walks her dog in the neighborhood. The dog's name is Kipnis. For those of us that remember the second baseman, for them the Indians. But Kipnis, by all accounts, the neighborhood loves him. The neighbors on that street interact. And these 2 dogs, she was coming home with Kipnis from a walk, and they were across the street from her house. And the dogs live up the street. They came down the street and attacked Kipnis, originally on the tree lawn. She managed to get the dog, Kipnis, onto her driveway and then up the driveway with these 2 pit bulls hanging onto him, and then tried to get him up the steps, the back steps of her porch. They have a side porch. And the dogs chased him up the steps as well. 3 passerbys on Edgerton intervened and managed to get the dogs off of Kipnis. She fell on the steps. There was a lot of everything. The bottom line is Kipnis had to have his front leg amputated. I stopped by to talk to Mrs. Stitches in his mouth, on the side of it. He has stitches all over, and it really is quite tremendous. Obviously, this has caused great concern. Since then, and I relayed this to Mr. Cicero, we found out the dogs have chased the postman. The postman will no longer deliver mail to that house. The dogs have been in backyards of people that have small children. So there obviously has been an ongoing issue, but unless it's called to Mr. Engelbrecht's attention, our police department's attention, nothing can be done. I'd like to read the letters, and then I just would like to do a summary. And I've been in contact with Mrs. Marshall, and she also is involved with this because of the safety committee, because we ran across a couple of issues that we will work on over the summer, and hopefully between the safety committee and the housing committee, begin to take steps to address some of the issues. The first letter was from Charlie Olivo. My name is Charlie Olivo, and my husband, Tommy Chesney, and I have lived at 2379 Edgerton Road for the past 7 years. We love how peaceful and tight-knit our neighborhood is, and we are devastated over the event that occurred on the morning of Tuesday, June 11, 2024. Kipnis, a sweet, well-mannered dog who was rescued by Connie and Tim Macon, was brutally attacked by 2 unsafe, unrestrained pit bull-type dogs while on their morning walk, resulting in severe injuries and the heartbreaking amputation of one of his legs. They are essential for the well-being of the dogs and the safety of our street. Furthermore, Connie and Tim, the devastated parents of Kipnis, deserve to be compensated for their trauma and the significant veterinary expenses incurred. Whether the responsibility lies with the dog owners or the property owner, it is only fair that they bear the costs and repercussions of this tragic event. The community stands united in supporting Connie and Tim, advocating for justice, and ensuring that no other family has to endure such a harrowing experience. The second letter is from Jamie Locks from 2392 Edgerton. Dear Councilwoman Weiser, I'm writing to express my deep concern regarding a recent incident involving loose pit bulls on Edgerton Road, which has raised significant safety issues for my street and our community. This incident is not isolated. These dogs have been seen loose several times, causing distress and posing a threat to our peaceful dog and kid-friendly neighborhood. The attack not only endangered the lives of other pets, but also left many residents, including myself, feeling vulnerable and unsafe in our own community. It is disheartening to see our neighborhood, which is known for its quiet, family-friendly environment, being disrupted by the frequent presence of these dangerous dogs. I urge the council to take immediate and decisive action to address this pressing issue. Sadly, Kip's leg, an overall joy for walking, will never be the same. The dog that was attacked lost a leg and nearly died. Our neighborhood should be a safe haven for families and their pets, and it's the responsibility of all residents to ensure that it remains so. I am confident that with the City Council's support and proactive measures, we can prevent future incidents and restore peace to our community. Thank you for your attention to this urgent matter. I look forward to your prompt action and response. Sincerely, Jamie and Sable the dog, Locks. And then the final letter is from Samuel Ramirez, who unfortunately did not give me his address. Dear Councilwoman Weiser, I wanted to thank you for assisting Tim and Connie in this terrible emotional time. I can't imagine what they must be going through helping to rehabilitate their dog Kipnis, who they consider a member of their family. Tim takes such tremendous care of his animals and always emphasizes discipline and safety when it comes to his pets. He has earned the nickname, the Dog Whisperer, around our neighborhood. I bring these things to your attention because me, Samuel Ramirez, and my wife, Laura Ramirez, are deeply concerned about this attack for a number of reasons. Perhaps the most disturbing fact is that we have so many small children, our 3 included, on this street, and this easily could have been one of them. Unfortunately, this isn't the first time these pit bulls have run loose. Please consider our fears and concerns as you address this tragic matter. Thank you deeply for your consideration. To summarize briefly what I found, again, a number of calls and emails with Mr. Cicero, and we also have looped in Mr. Brian, the law director, on this. And I'll talk about the housing section, what I found in the housing section, and Mrs. Marshall can address what belongs to safety. First of all, we cannot declare these dogs vicious or dangerous. Our friends in the State House put the Ohio Revised Code, put into the ORC a number of years ago, language that reserves that right to the state. In essence, they preempted our home rule powers in this area. The Ohio Supreme Court has upheld those changes, so the city's hands are tied. What we found was what we have in our ordinances is older than those changes and is unenforceable. The owners, though, for what our police department was able to charge, received 4 citations, 2 for each dog, 1 for animal at large and 1 for dog without vaccinations. They were given as criminal citations, not civil ones. That is important. Mr. Cicero, as our county prosecutor, has assured me he will be pushing for maximum penalties under the law when these come up in Shaker Court. I also asked him to alert me whenever the hearings are, and since I have some freedom this summer, I will be attending those in order to hear how those hearings go. He will work to try to get the cost of the vet bills worked into whatever, if they're found guilty, whatever the requirements are or what the court charges them with, so that there might be some reimbursement to the dog's owner that was hurt. Because we discovered this is also a rental, the house that these 2 the dog's owners live in, we went to the codes on rentals. We do have we sort of strengthened some of our rental codes years ago, but in talking to Mike, he gave me a heads up that Mayfield Heights' ordinance is very, very strong, and I'll be looking at that over the summer, and I already told the building committee that they can expect some summer reading from me. And we'll look at that and then work with Mr. Bryan to see where we can update our codes so that if these are rental units, we have better control over that as well. So that is for me, and Mrs. Marshall, would you like to address the safety issues?
Yes, thank you. So the Ohio revised codes were changed to define dangerous dogs and vicious dogs. And because those changes were made and they were upheld by the Ohio Supreme Court, we need to update our ordinances so that they are in alignment with Ohio. And we're going to address that. So the law director is looking at code 618.04. And that's the one that has to conform with what is now in the ORC. And so that we are able to cite owners of dogs like the one that attacked kittens. So we'll be working on that over the summer, and it will be on the safety committee agenda in September to make these changes.
And I'd like to make one final I'm losing my voice. The Edgerton that runs from Silsbee going towards, I believe it's Hillbrook, right? Yeah. And that area is pretty close knit. It's not real large. It's about a city block and a half. And the number of neighbors, we had a neighbor come up to us at the city council booth and do not know it. I know some people walk dogs without leashes in my area. And we've seen 2 pictures of pets in my area as well. I would imagine the police department has fielded, they've actually rounded up some of those dogs because
I will get those reports out to everyone this week, both revenue and expense, statement of cash, and a summary of our investments. Other than that, waiting on the agenda tonight is the second reading of the tax budget. Hoping that gets approved this evening. That has to be filed with Cuyahoga County before July 20th. So I'm hopeful we can get that done and down to them prior to the end of the month as well.
Thank you. Has the cloud migration at all begun?
It has. I still need to do one component that we did not know about, which relates to our financial package. There's an additional module on there called Analytics that lets you pull information from the accounting software and do projections and forecasts and that type of thing. That will not be supported by an in-house server anymore. I thought that was included in the original migration. It's not, so there's an item on the appropriation amendment tonight to provide resources for that. It's roughly about $8,000, and that goes to the software vendor, Software Solutions. So once that is completed, then the migration, to my knowledge, will be pretty much complete.
Great, thank you. Are there any other questions for the finance director? Okay, Department of Law? Thank you. Public Safety, Chief of Police?
Vice Mayor, no report.
Okay, and Fire Chief?
Thanks, Vice Mayor. Just 2 items tonight. Just wanted to say that we have officially concluded spring hydrant flushing. All 550 hydrants in the city were flushed and maintenanced. That created 9 work tickets with Cleveland Division of Water, so they're actively working on some of the hydrants or mains that had issues. And then each spring and fall, we also do flow testing of a particular zone. We accomplish all the flow testing on all hydrants. It takes 5 years. So we did one of those zones this spring. Second, just wanted to report from the County Emergency Management Office, something we're all aware of. It's hot outside. And you know, they do have 3 different types of advisories: a heat watch, a heat advisory, and a heat warning. They have it on a level 2 elderly. Keep an eye on their neighbors. People can get heat exhaustion very quickly in weather that's going to be forecasted for this week. So if they start getting the signs of being diaphoretic, sweaty, that's associated with dizziness or confusion, you want to get them to a cool environment and start getting them to hydrate, because that heat exhaustion can quickly turn to heat stroke. If they start not making sense, the next thing that's probably going to happen to them if they don't get into a cool environment is they're going to become unconscious. So anybody that's experiencing extreme heat issues and not making sense, call 911 immediately and try to get them to a cool environment. Keep an eye on your neighbors. Thanks.
Thank you. Are there any
Vice
questions?
Mayor? Yeah. Do we have a designated cooling center?
The county has a number of cooling centers that open at the discretion of those particular centers or municipalities. I do think that South Euclid has 2, last time I checked earlier today, that are currently open. The county provides an update on which ones are open at any time.
Can you speak loud?
Sure.
So it would be South Euclid?
The closest ones to us that I believe are open based on the website for the county is South Euclid right now.
Do we notify our residents of that at all? I mean, we tend to, I doubt, I probably would assume, but every time I say assume, I shudder, that our residents might know that, or that most of our residents have air conditioning, but we don't know what could happen. Do people know that that's there?
We've typically talked to residents on a case-by-case basis, or if it went to a level 3 as a heat warning, we would start putting out some public notice.
When it's a level 3, you do what?
We would consider putting out public notice.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Alden?
Also no report. Ms. Drucker is home.
Okay. We are now up to reading and disposition of ordinances, resolutions, motions, and consideration of agenda items. We are up to letter C, ordinance 2024-45, appointing Roberta Rubin as assistant clerk of council and declaring an emergency. I will begin. We were notified in March that our current assistant clerk, June, was going to retire. I notified some members yesterday. I hope many of you got to meet her. Are there any questions? Okay, is there a motion?
So moved.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
Mrs. Thomas, we call the roll.
Mr. King?
Aye.
Mrs. X?
Aye.
Mr.
Mr. Cooney?
Aye.
Mrs. Wise?
Aye.
Mr. Rock?
Aye.
Ms. Marshall?
Aye.
Ms. Weiser?
Aye.
Thank you, and welcome to the team.
It's good to be here.
Do we need to, emergency?
I'm sorry, you know what, we have to, it was on emergency. We have to suspend the rules.
Do roll.
We have to do everything over. Okay.
That's all right, we'll get to congratulate you again.
So is there a motion to suspend the rules?
So moved.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
Okay, Mrs. Thomas, will you call the roll?
Mr. King?
Aye.
Mrs. Sacks?
Aye.
Mr. Cooney?
Aye.
Mrs. Wise?
Aye.
Mr. Rock?
Aye.
Ms. Marshall?
Aye.
Ms. Weiser?
Aye.
And on the main motion?
Mr. King?
Aye.
Mrs. Sacks? Aye. Mr. Cooney?
Aye.
Mrs. Wise?
Aye.
Ms. Rock?
Aye.
Ms. Weiser?
Aye.
Ms. Marshall?
Aye. Motion passes. Ordinance passes. Thank you. Okay, letter D, approval of planning commission recommendation.
Congratulations.
For the demolish of the current house at 4381 University Parkway and the site plan for a new single-family home on the same lot. Is there a representative for this? Ms. Herta?
So this house is on the corner of Milton and University Parkway. It's the northeast corner of the intersection, and there's an existing 1.5-story home there, and my clients, the homeowners, are planning to alternate home and construct a new 2-story residence at that location. There will be some changes to the existing configuration of the driveways. There are 3 access points. Presently, there's 2 from Milton and 1 from University Parkway. The owners would like to change that to 2 access points off of University Parkway. That was not approved. That's pending review. The home itself, the demolition of the home, and the new home that will be constructed was approved, along with a 1.5%, I believe, lot coverage variance.
So, Mr. Rock and the mayor.
Requested. One is a small coverage variance, which I believe is 0.8 of 1%. On the lot coverage, mentioned that we will actually be further away from the property line than the current residence that's on the property now. Thank you.
And again, Mr. Rock or Mayor, are there anything that you'd like to share?
Just another lovely home. The commission reviewed this and we unanimously agreed that we should proceed on the previous one with the non-driveway issue, but we're going to do that on the other. And we have no reservations about recommending that the council approve. So, thank you.
I just want to add, it's a wonderful fit for this neighborhood. The site's a little wonky. It's not a rectangular shape like maybe yours and my house is. It has like this bend at the property line, and at that bend is where the closest point, the back corner of the house is to the property line. And that's really what they're seeking the variance for. It's not for the entire side yard. It's just really to accommodate that corner. So it's very minimal impact. And as the gentleman said, the previous home and commission felt that that was okay.
Yeah, I mean, echoing that, from the front, it won't appear as if it's any closer to either house on either side, as I think the houses on the street. It's really due to the shape of the lots.
Thank you. Are there any additional questions? Okay, is there a motion? I will make the motion. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Second by Mr. King. Mrs. Thomas, will you call the roll?
Mr. King?
Aye.
Mrs. Sacks? Aye. Mr. Cooney?
Aye.
Mrs. Wise?
Aye.
Ms. Rock?
Aye.
Ms. Marshall?
Aye.
Ms. Weiser?
Aye.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, agenda F. Motion to accept bid pavement marking bids and enter into contract with Pat Flowers as the best and lowest bid in an amount of $69,404.75. Ms. Montague?
Hello. So, as you just read, we received 3 bids on Friday. Pat Flowers was
submitted to the clerk of council So there's enough, as I told you, there's enough appropriation there to cover this for now, but I would probably include this as an amendment in the fall adjustment that I would bring to council as we move forward in the year. It was over the original amount that was included in the budget, which was based on last year's expense.
What was that total amount?
From last year?
Yeah, or that we budgeted for.
I thought this year's budget, it was in the
It was at
50,000.
53,000, somewhere along there.
Are there any questions for them today? Yeah, Mr. Rock?
Now that I know that the budget was based on last year's total.
Is there a second? I'll second. Second by Mrs. Marshall. Mrs. Thomas, will you call the roll?
Mr. King?
Aye.
Mrs. Sacks?
Aye.
Mr. Cooney?
Aye.
Mrs. Wise?
Aye.
Mr. Rock?
Aye.
Mr. Marshall? Aye. Ms. Weiser?
Aye.
Let's stay up for letter G, motion to approve seeking bids for the 2024 street program.
Yes, since you guys are going to go on recess, I think I'm not going to be guaranteed any more meetings here in the summer. So I'm just planning ahead. The plans are being worked on, the spec book is being prepared. I'm not ready to go out to bid just yet, but within the next 2 to 3 weeks, I would like to go advertise for bids. So everything, we talked about the budget earlier when I asked to get approval on it for engineering and construction administration. So my final estimate will be very close or exact to what I had already given you guys. So I don't see that changing much.
Yeah, Mr. Rock?
One thing I'd just like to recognize and be thankful for is that I noticed you align your fee with the county's percentage for street improvement. And I don't remember what I think it was 11.5 before, it's now at 10%.
Yes.
So it's in line with the county. So I appreciate that you took a look at that.
You're welcome.
One question that I had, when you, on a couple of the streets, it says curb spot repairs, does that mean that only if the curb needs repairing will the curb be repaired? Because I know when I go throughout the city, sometimes a curb is actually okay and it doesn't need to be completely
Well,
redone.
it was my understanding that you guys replace all the curbs unless there's a large tree on the tree lawn, and then you skip those. We can trim it down and take a look at just the bad curbs.
So I know some streets have no curbs. I mean, I'll just be honest with you.
It's just gone. The
Some
reveal
streets
is gone. Yes, I agree.
Some streets do have some spots where there are decent curbs that don't need to be repaired. That we've had these conversations kind of back and forth. It's just curbs are really expensive, and if there's a spot, a decent section that is in good condition. I don't know, we can have a conversation about this, but I don't think it should be ripped out and then, us have to pay for that.
Yeah, I agree, and I know it's been a new vision that we're going to do full curb replacement of all street programs, and I've come to accept that. One thing I did not like way in the past was when they did a partial curb repair or replacement, is when they did the partial repair in the middle of a property between aprons to be more appropriate to go apron to apron, so that curb line stays consistent instead of having to go, the 1920 standard to the 2024 standard to the 1970 standard or whatever it is, So that's something I would be interested in seeing, that it goes apron to apron.
Yes, just as a reminder, we declared a policy administratively in 2021 that we were going to do full curb replacement, that most of these streets, they have original curbs dating back to when the streets were actually built. We have had instances like Mr. Rock has described, and also instances where before 2021, when partial curb replacement was done, where contractors were ramping curbs at angles so that old curb would meet new curb with disastrous results. If anybody hasn't taken a look, go to Dysart Road, north of Meadowbrook, or not north of Meadowbrook, north of Fairmount, to Fairmount, Meadowbrook, and look what they did there. We don't want that ever again. That's just how that is right now. And what we've adopted is full curb replacement with exceptions made around trees so that we don't harm old growth trees, because the curbs are much deeper than maybe some folks realize, and we don't want to hurt the root ball of an old growth tree, or really any tree, with a curb. We love curbs, we love trees even more. So this is part of improving the way it looks. I've said it before, I'll say it again. Paving the street without addressing the curbs is like a brand new suit with scuffed up shoes. We need to make sure that, here in what we've long called the city of beautiful homes, that the roads look good, the curbs look good. And it's all about how the neighborhood presents. I will say, in all candor, there was one exception. Since the full curb policy, White Road, we did do a spot replacement of curbs there because most of the curbs there were really still in very good shape. I don't know that any of these streets here even approach that. So the benefit of having done it that long time was the money that was saved from not doing the curbs there. We were able to do a patch elsewhere that was very needed just off of Cedar Road. But by and large, I really think we should be bidding this as full curb replacement, and if conditions in the field suggest an alternative that it truly isn't necessary, then we can make that adjustment on the fly.
So that's exactly what I'm saying. We bid it, but if
we save some, we'll save some.
We see when we're in the field that the curbs, like on White Road, are actually in good condition, that we don't replace them. That's exactly what I'm saying.
Yeah.
Well, then maybe we are on the same page.
Yeah, these are 3 old streets, I can tell you. You can see brick in one of them under the asphalt, so they are old. I'm not sure how many curbs we'll be able to save, but some will be saved because of trees.
No, just to keep that in the back of your mind, because
Okay,
I know you're
will
new,
do.
and that's all I was saying. Yeah, Mr. Ryan?
Can I just ask one question about the depth of the curb? I'm not an engineer, but the original curbs go so far down. Do these new curbs go further down? And what is it about the tree and the curb that is there a conflict?
I go down at least a foot.
I understand, but do the old ones do as well? It's like filling a cavity. You take the K out and you're
not going down further.
Yeah, are you going down further?
Probably with the new curbs, yes.
Okay, that's my question.
Plus, then if any under drain needs to be repaired, that sits behind the curb, so then you're working in the tree run a little bit more.
Excellent.
It's just an observation. Someday I too will get curbs. It's probably a long way off because my street hasn't been done since '95. But the thing is, it's fascinating to see that in some cases the cost of the curbs is more than the cost of the asphalt, which is part of the reason why at one point we didn't replace all the curbs, because in order to be able to do more streets you had to cut the curbs. But you kick the can down the road, and then at some point you do have to fix it.
And we have asked Ms. Mockbee to, throughout the next, 6 months or whatever, to re-review the streets. So maybe Jackson will come up. Okay, thank you. Is there a motion to seek bids for the 2024 street program?
So moved, Vice Mayor.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
Second by Ms. Sacks. Mrs. Thomas, we call the roll.
Mr. King?
Aye.
Mrs. Sacks? Aye. Mr. Cooney?
Aye.
Mrs. Wise?
Aye.
Mr. Rock?
Aye.
Ms. Marshall?
Aye.
Ms. Weiser?
Aye.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay. We are on to letter H. Motion to establish University Heights Municipal Complex Project Owners Representative, RFQ, Selection Committee, and select the members of the committee. So at the last meeting, we approved the RFQ. We just need to select these 7 members that council agreed to. I will have Mr. Bryan just read off the members, and then we just have to, I think, specify a couple of them, correct?
That's correct, Vice Mayor. So Section 4.1 of the RFQ designated the 7-member selection committee, including the mayor, the city engineer, the police chief, fire chief, and service director. And then there's 1 council person and a member of the council facilities and infrastructure committee. So those last 2 people, we need to put names to those positions.
Okay, does anybody want to start the discussion?
Question about the member of the infrastructure committee. Has anybody been engaged yet before we just throw out a name? I don't want to voluntold someone to participate, but.
No one has been approached. I know that I have spoken to one person, not specifically, but their Bill has very much been engaged. He has been at every walkthrough. He was one of 2 people that gave RFQ details. So that would be my suggestion. And then I would put Mr. Rock as the council person, as an architect. I think he has the most knowledge in terms of building. This is just, again, for the RFQ. Obviously, council people will be involved throughout the whole process, so I'm not concerned that anybody wouldn't have a say in anything going forward. They're going to be public meetings. People can, have many meetings or will have input. I don't know if anyone else has any other idea.
I appreciate it. I'm usually on the other side of the table, so this will be a new challenge.
Mm-hmm. So just to clarify the motion, the council established the complex fire chief, the service director, William Eberhard, and councilperson John.
Would you like us to vote that separately with the 2?
No.
Okay. So I will make a motion as the lay facilities member to be William Eberhard and the council person to be John Rock.
Mr. Sachs? Aye. Mr. Cooney?
Aye.
Mrs. Wise?
Aye.
Mr. Rock?
Aye.
Ms. Marshall?
Aye.
Ms. Weiser?
Abstain.
Adopting the alternative 2025 tax budget on second reading. Mr. Kennedy, it is on second reading.
Yes, just to reiterate this process. It's required by state law. It has to be filed with the County Budget Commission before July 20th. This particular document details projected revenue and expense information for 2025. Amount of millage is not changed from prior years. It's at a total of 13.2. Just for council's benefit, I did send a draft of this to the County Budget Commission.
Okay, Ordinance 2030, version 3, establishing Chapter 281 of the City Administrator Code, Parking Garage Community Improvement Corporation, and authorizing and directing the mayor to file appropriate articles of incorporation, therefore, and declaring an emergency on second reading as amended. So in front of you, there are 2 versions. Letter K is the second version. There is a difference from what I am reading. on what the council discussed on how to choose the resident. The mayor has it looks like it's all the only difference. The council discussed if the mayor appoints and council approves, and Mr. Bryan, it's a total of 3 times, correct?
Yes, so the difference between the two ordinances is in 281.02 subsection B. We got to the point of the meeting where it was decided that citizen member would be appointed by the mayor and confirmed by council. And council talked about it reverting to them at some point. If it wasn't sufficient approval, we really didn't have time in the committee to hold meeting to use the right way to flesh out that issue of what happens if there's an impasse between the mayor appointing the people that aren't accepted by the council, or if council doesn't approve, I guess the mayor's perspective, council doesn't approve anyone the mayor appoints, what happens. So I think everyone's clear that if the mayor doesn't appoint within the time frame he has to appoint, and at that point, council will get to appoint. If council doesn't vote on the mayor's appointment within the time frame they have to operate, the mayor's appointment would automatically be confirmed. I guess the question is, between the two versions, what happens if over time there's not an acceptable candidate, or
yeah, Mayor?
Yes, that we agreed that the mayor would appoint within a certain period of time. The council would then consider the appointment and they would approve or not approve. And that if the council did not approve, then the mayor would continue to make appointments until such time as either we had approval or the mayor quit putting forth nominees. We didn't discuss any kind of cap or number of times that the mayor could make appointments or make efforts at making appointments. We simply discussed that the mayor would do that until such time as we either had an appointment or we had either had an approval or the mayor didn't make any more appointments. What we have here with version 3 is basically a 3 strikes and you're out, which we didn't talk about. That way, I don't do that as it wasn't part of the deal. Basically, if the council rejects the mayor's appointment 3 times in a row, then the council gets to make their own appointment. I didn't agree to that. So I don't believe that the minutes from the committee of the whole reflect that. I haven't seen the minutes yet, but I also remember my own memory on it. I didn't agree to that. I agreed to what is set forth in version 4, and that's what we all agreed to at the committee of the whole. So I would urge that we table letter J, version 3, and move on to letter K, version 4, and vote on that one, which I believe is reflective of the agreement we all made at the committee of the whole. Thank you.
So what I recall, actually in the council meeting, was a discussion that some council members were concerned because of an ARB appointee that is vacant still, that we wanted to make sure that the council members wanted to make sure that there was not to be a vacant position in this body. So I remember, I think it was Mr. Rock mentioned that he wanted some kind of mechanism to make sure that there was not a vacant position. And that was in a council meeting, that wasn't in council of the whole. So that's where this came up. It was not finalized in that council meeting. So that idea is kind of fleshed out here to make sure that there's never a vacancy.
Well, I think we addressed that also at the council meeting, that there is no vacancy on the ARB. The ARB is fully staffed with full-time members. The only quote-unquote vacancy on the ARB would be to appoint somebody as an alternate. And it's the only board or commission that has an alternate. And that alternate would only be called upon at such time as if you had a proposal that was before ARB where one of the architects is conflicted out and unable to proceed. We have a 5-member ARB and they all work at different firms. We're not going to have the kind of conflict where you can't have a quorum. You know, it's a holdover from a 3-member ARB board, and sometimes 2 of those members work for the same firm. So this isn't the same thing at all. We had a deal that we reached with the committee of the whole, and now I see with version 3 that, that this is a reneging of that deal. And, you know, I don't want to, I would like and would appreciate the council to be good to its word, to follow through on the deal that we agreed to. The CIC negotiations were contentious, but we all gave up something, and we got to a place where we had common ground to create a limited purpose garage CIC. I would ask that you not put this poison pill into it where the council can simply reject the mayor's appointment 3 times and then take the appointment for itself. That was not the intention, that was not what we agreed to.
I think the intention of council would never be to reject outright the mayor's appointment. That would, you're reading into something that's not there. If you look at the board, I mean, it's basically your administration, so I'm not sure why you're nervous about a resident that's appointed.
That's not my concern at all.
Well, your concern seems to be, instead of working together, your concern seems to be that council will just outright dismiss whoever you appoint, which is, that wouldn't be my take, and I would assume it's not going to be the rest of council's either.
Well, you know, when I have a council that agrees to one thing and then changes it when it shows up on the next agenda, that's part of where, no, but that's what I'm saying.
No,
because we agree.
ARB suddenly got dragged into this. ARB is not, it's listed by ordinance, it's part of the ordinances, or is it charter? Ordinances. Well, if that alternative really doesn't belong, I would think somebody probably would have put forth some legislation to eliminate it. And since that never came forward, apparently we wanted it in there and we probably wanted it filled. It just seems logical to me, although sometimes things go illogical around here. The second thing is, I think we did talk in the council of the whole, and I know we brought it up in the discussion back and forth on this, that there was a concern that things that dragged on and dragged on and dragged on could then result in something coming into the CIC where we would not have that final person appointed. And if, by gosh, somehow all the administrative members on the CIC didn't agree with the mayor and it ended up with a split vote in that CIC, it would only be 6 people and it could go 3-3, and that we sort of felt wasn't healthy for the organization. There is a tendency that I am beginning to see to play the picayune for whatever benefit I can't figure out, and it is not helpful to the city of University Heights and to the residents that we serve. And it would be nice if on occasion we would all grow up and realize that maybe putting a cap on something that doesn't take away any of the magic powers of the mayor and doesn't assume that everybody is somehow against the mayor and his selections, we probably make good progress. Anything that I've seen that council has questioned, like in terms of the engineer, is more a matter of, as I've often said, deciding to plop something at the council without forethought and discussion. And a little bit of discussion usually gets you a long way. For some reason, apparently we just don't want to do it. I would assume, not happily for me, I think it's petty. I really think it's petty.
I should pray that you don't alter it further.
Mr. Cooney.
Essentially the difference, my concern is that with the council, and it will be there because it could happen. And we're trying to prevent a stalemate for CIC, which is important. But it's also council are motivated to find someone to tip the scale towards one or the other. And so I do struggle a little bit with if there are 3 appointments that are not approved, that it would fall on council. And I understand the need to make a decision, and sometimes it should be done because it's important what we're doing. But with the administration and council are both, that we have a significant stake in this game in order to get that citizen appointment completed. And I guess I'm struggling with if there are 3 appointments. Obviously, the other difference is the timeline, 25 days versus 14 and 35. To me, that's tomato, tomato. I'm flexible on that. I hear the concerns, Ms. Weiser and the mayor. I think we all have a vested stake in this, and to simply put a limit on that would only also limit potential candidates at the same time. But I'd like to think, and maybe I'm being pessimistic, or optimistic about this, that we could find someone for that appointment rather quickly versus simply reviewing potential candidates over and over again.
So do you see a middle ground here?
We've compromised a lot. I shouldn't say a lot. We actually had a really good discussion. At the end of the day, we crossed the goal line. And we did it probably in about 15 minutes. Council is driven to find someone for that member. We could always present potential candidates for consideration. The mayor, obviously, with his appointment, he could choose to listen or to find somebody else. But I would like to think, whether it's current council or current administration, or somebody in the future, that we would do anything to sabotage trying to maintain a healthy board. There's no winner in that scenario for the administration or for council to perpetually present an appointment. The mayor would knowingly get rejected. It doesn't look good for council, and it doesn't look good for the mayor. We all lose. The city loses. And again, I struggle with saying, well, if you don't do it after 3 times, we're going to do it. We don't do it the other boards. We shouldn't start with this one.
I agree with you. I agree with you 100%. I agree with you that there's no devious intention here. Council wants to work with the mayor, 100%. My fear is that because we have a precedent with ARB, is that no one is going to get picked and you're going to be stuck with a 6-person board. That's my fear, because it's happened before. So there needs to be some mechanism where somebody is going to be picked at some certain time. That's my fear.
We are requiring somebody to be presented for approval.
And if they're denied?
If they're denied. My concern is if we're gonna do it for one, do it for all. And we don't, that is not gonna be healthy.
What happens if I'm gonna throw this out. In the original version 3, it's like every 14 days, correct? 15 days? I thought it was about 14.
It's 14 to 30.
It's 7.
Oh, the original.
Originally, and then it's 7 days after.
It's every 14 days. What happens if the mayor appoints every 14 days until somebody is chosen, and then it doesn't terminate to council? So then it has to be fixed.
It's 15 days from the filing of the acceptance of the articles of incorporation by the Secretary of State, put forth his first proposal, and then if that person gets denied, he has to appoint his next person. Recommend his next, put forth his next appointment within 7 days. If the mayor does not do it within 7 days, then it's forfeited to council. Version 3.
So what happens if the compromise is that the mayor has a certain time frame each time to appoint,
Present an appointment
every 14 days until it gets approved by council? Then it's not taking away the council.
Yeah, it's already in there right now, and he actually has 7 days
No, but it doesn't ever revert that council as the final if the council doesn't approve. Do you know what I'm saying?
Right, that's correct.
But if he misses the deadline.
Right.
Okay, this is a deadline, but that.
To me, that is, that's motivating everybody.
So this is what I'm saying.
I guess I would look to the mayor for his comment.
You understand? Was I clear when I?
No, you're describing version 4. Version 4, I'm required to appoint, and I'm required to keep appointing. And if I don't appoint, then it reverts to the council. But it doesn't cap it at 3.
No, but in version 4, that's not what it says.
Just to clarify, everyone, that's the way version 4 works. So
right.
15
version
days for the filing of the
response.
articles, and then council has 2 meetings to act, and then if council votes the mayor's first appointment down, he has 7 days from the date of the field confirmation vote to provide the clerk of council with the name and contact information of an alternate appointee. And same thing, if council doesn't approve, it's a 7-day deadline for each one of those votes. Vote someone, but if the person's not acceptable, it just keeps going on forever.
Yeah, I mean, we don't have a mechanism like that anywhere else. But I agreed to do that here because, I was just trying to get this done. I was being pragmatic, and I thought we had a deal. Everything that we did at the committee of the whole suggested we had this deal. I'm only going to appoint good people, so I don't expect that to be a problem. But at the same time, I don't expect any rejections. But if you're going to reject one, you could reject 3. So I do have a problem with there being a cap.
Vice Mayor.
Yeah, sorry, Ms. Weiser.
Actually, we do have a precedent. It's in the charter. Council has 30 days to replace a council person. If we don't, it reverts to the mayor. Period. So I guess we can sit here and say, back and forth. But I think the concern is that this could go for a year, 2 years. It could go forever if people want to go back and forth. If the administration doesn't want that seat filled, the easiest way to do it is to put up people they know the council would reject. I mean, if people are going to play games, and there certainly have been enough of them, I think ad nauseum is petty, silly. I think at some point there has to be a deadline, be it 30 days, 60 days, 90 days, and then at that point, they lose the appointment. Because if they haven't given somebody to approve, that's approvable in 90 days, that ain't gonna happen.
Well, how about we do this? The mayor can appoint up to 3, and if you reject all 3, then the mayor gets to pick just one of those 3.
No.
Well
Again, let's play games.
If you want to put
let's
them
play
on,
games.
I'm saying if you want to make sure that it's filled in a reasonable period of time, then keep it with the mayor. The mayor gets to appoint up to 3. If council rejects all 3, the mayor still gets to pick one of those 3. Well, I think what you've proposed in number 3 is unfair.
Okay. Ms. Sachs?
Thank you. In context, the mayor has expressed his disdain for the CIC, for the resident member of CIC, which was approved.
We're not talking about this right now.
We are talking about
We're talking about
this. We're talking about the floor.
Yes, we're talking about the law.
Every time.
Ms. Sachs has the floor.
Every time.
Ms. Sachs has the floor.
You're the one chairing the meeting. Call Mrs. Sachs to order.
Ms. Sachs has the floor.
About the CIC is actually being discussed.
It's the agenda item, if we were speaking of, it has context.
Yes, it does. It's giving the context. So the point is that because of this history and this context, and even to the point where I believe the administration knew that the CIC had lapsed with its paperwork, it's suspect that the mayor would want to see this go forward constructively. So after this discussion and both sides that I've heard, and Mr. Cooney weighing in, I think that a cap or some type of, and a precedent with the charter we're very familiar with that. We've replaced a few members now. There is precedent, and it's been very functional. So I think we have what to vote on. Thank you.
Mr. Bryan, I want some clarification here on version 4. So it says that if the mayor's proposed appointee fails the council confirmation vote, the mayor shall have 7 days from the date of the failed confirmation. And then it goes again and again, correct? And then it says, in that event, council shall appoint a citizen to serve on the board by a majority vote of council within 25 days of the date on which the mayor failed to provide a clerk of council with a proposed appointee. So there is right now in version 4 a mechanism where council appoints if the mayor failed.
Doc and I actually submitted that we agreed to compromise on, and that appointment being made by council to begin with. So the compromise that council made, because council was attempting to compromise with the mayor, was to turn that appointment to the mayor and have the mayor appoint the citizen. At that time, there were concerns, would this occur? I once again remind us all, we are here because council compromised. We wouldn't even be talking about this, Mayor, if council had not compromised to begin with. We're willing to play in the sandbox. It would be nice if you would be too.
That's right.
Yeah, Mr. Cooney.
Something to consider, similar to what Ms. Weiser mentioned regarding the charter for the council vacancy. I'll keep, for version 4, I'll keep the language the same. however, include language that if the vacancy is not filled within 60 days, then the appointment shall be referred to council. So in theory, the mayor could make a recommendation for appointment every day within 60 days. There's no limit to it. It could be multiple presentations within a day. But the clock would be ticking in order to get it done, because if the garage CSC is functional and to prevent any sort of stalemate, we're basically modeling it off of the existing charter that we currently have, and it drives action by council, it drives action by the administration.
Yeah, just one comment on that. The way, the mayor's action is 7 days if someone's voted down. Council has 2 meetings, because I didn't want to make it the next meeting if something happens like the day before a meeting. It's how council might not have enough time to search it. So the time frame could get strung out more by council the way it's presently written. It's 2 meetings, and it does say special or regular meetings, so if council is holding a special meeting, they need to deal with this issue on that special meeting.
Yeah,
And that's another.
And on that point, we're about to go into a summer recess where if you don't have any special meetings, it will be 60 days before we have a regular meeting. So I could make an appointment and not have it considered for nearly 60 days, and that would use up most of the time. So I appreciate what you're getting at, Mr. Cooney, but I don't think that's going to work here, especially because if this passes tonight like it should, we're going to be filing for the CIC, and we're going to be making an appointment to Mrs. Thomas here in a very short order to be considered at 1 or 2 special meetings from now. That's next.
I just have one caveat to maybe Mr. Cooney's, is that multiple people can be appointed at once. Council can make a decision also within those 60 days.
I wouldn't nominate more than one person at a time.
We have a list of people. I'm just saying to try.
That's in theory. But that's the appointment, the presentation appointment would be 1 person.
But I'm saying there could be multiple people. If one gets shut down, there could be multiple people in a meeting presented if Mr. Webb?
Who calls a special meeting?
Council. 2 members of council.
Or can the mayor have the ability to call a special meeting?
The mayor and the vice mayor can call a special meeting.
Your 60-day scenario, you could avoid that by calling a special meeting.
Yeah.
So that's what
I mean, I suppose technically I could call a special meeting for next Tuesday and then another one for Wednesday after that.
Sure.
We've seen it done where multiple special meetings are called in 1 week. It's a little odd and wonky when it happens.
So, but I think that alleviates that concern. This is time sensitive because this is for the garage, and so I think having that cap is important, at least in this particular case, because of the sensitivity of the issue. And, we could look at that down the road. Now, if I were mayor, and I'm not, but if I were, I wouldn't need this many meetings. I would probably contact council people and get their take ahead of time, get the flavor and appetite in the room to see, could this candidate get approved? I'm a happy-go-lucky guy. I'm easy to get along with. I could probably do it in one time. I think that's what this particular thing does. It forces that compromise before the meeting, which is what you should do. You should be having those conversations, you and I, ahead of the meeting, because one thing I don't want to see is a resident member who's not going to get paid to do this, by the way, be rejected. That's embarrassing. It's humiliating. It's not fair. So if I were mayor, I would make it my goal to get my candidate.
The mayor by council. And if that 60 days were to pass, then it would revert to council for the appointment.
I would, if that's your amendment, I'd be happy to second it.
Thank you.
Did you make that amendment right now?
So,
Are you formally
okay,
making an
so,
amendment?
we're having a discussion, so,
Yeah.
looks like Ms. Marshall has
I'm sorry, no, go ahead.
Because we can have discussion after.
Okay, so I would make a motion to table version 3.
Second.
Mrs. Thomas, will you call the roll?
Mr. King?
Aye.
Mrs. Sacks?
Nay.
Mr. Cooney?
Aye.
Mrs. Wise?
Aye.
Mr. Rock?
Nay.
Ms. Marshall?
See, I wanted to say something before this vote took place, because from my understanding, the 60 days was not recommended by the moderator. Am I wrong? That's what I wanted clarification of before we got to this point. Because I don't want to make a vote without getting clarification on that.
Mr. Cooney.
There's only 2 tables.
Yeah, but I'm not saying that I want to table version 3.
Let's do this. Mr. Cooney, will you withdraw your motion for right now?
I will withdraw my motion to table version 3.
Mrs. Weiser?
The item we were discussing was version 3, which is next in the agenda. If we wish to talk about version 3, we need to talk about it or table it and then move into version 4. What happened is, in the discussion, because the mayor started talking about 4 instead of 3, which was out of order, and we probably all should have caught that, Mr. Cooney moved to actually amend item 4, and I believe Mr. Bryan was opining on item 4, not item 3. So we either move item, which one is it, J? K, up.
Or table item J. You could table item J and go to item J.
Well, no, we have to table item 3 to get to item 4.
So J is item 3, is version 3. So Mr. Cooney was tabling J, so we can start talking
Right,
about K.
yeah, and I was seconding J.
Okay, so that means that we can go back to J. It's not just off.
Yeah, we can take that off the table.
Okay, but we can go, it can come back too, so correct? See, that's where my confusion is.
We talked about J.
We already withdrew the motion, right?
Yes.
The table?
Yeah.
Okay, so we are on item J.
No, we're not. We didn't, yes, that's correct. Yes. J is version 3. Right, right.
I just want to make sure I'm understanding, J is not, version 3 is not just gone away.
No, it's just
No, we're going to table.
You can take J from the table later if you decide to.
We can put it back on, we can put it back on the agenda.
Okay, my apologies, okay.
Unless you want version, unless you want J.
Right, you can vote on item J also. Let's do this. Let's have,
Tabling it, you're not voting on it. Unless you're voting to not table it, and you would want to see it, or to see it say no.
Does that amendment that Mr. Cooney proposed work in version 3? Because you would be just removing the cap and adding the 60 days, making a small change.
To stay on item J was to table item J. We could always bring it back.
what Mr. Rock is saying is.
Right, I understand. My intent was to table J, and we could discuss if we should modify it.
And it's probably easier, with Mr. Cooney's proposed amendment, it's probably easier to amend version 4.
That's my thought. And if for some reason we are unable to resolve the issue with item K, we could always bring back item J and vote on it.
Okay.
Ms. Weiser?
Okay. And then we do need to address Councilwoman Marshall's question regarding Jay when we get to Jay, because your question's about Jay.
Okay.
Or we table tables now?
Okay.
You got to re-table, Mr. Cooney?
Wait. Ms. Marshall, you had a question on Jay specifically? Because if we're
No,
tabling Jay.
to me, my question was already answered. I wanted to know if Jay could come back if necessary.
Yeah.
Okay.
Jay was still here, Jay's still going
So you're going to table it again?
Jay is approved, then there is no Jay.
Yeah, that's fine.
Jay's
Let's
run
just
out
vote to
to,
change the order.
That's fine.
Jay's run out to hang out the AC.
Mr. Cooney, do you want to make a motion to table Jay?
Yes, I make a motion to table item J.
I second that motion.
Mrs. Thomas, will you call the roll?
Mr. King.
Aye.
Mrs. Sacks.
Nay.
Mr. Cooney.
Aye.
Mrs. Weiss.
Aye.
Mr. Rupp.
Nay.
Ms. Marshall. Aye. Ms. Weiss.
Aye.
Motion passes. Mr. Cooney, do you want to make an amendment to item K?
Well, I think you need to read item K first.
Item K is ordinance 2024-30, establishing chapter 281 of the City Administrative Code, creating and relating to the University Heights Parking Garage Community Improvement Corporation, and authorizing and directing the mayor to file appropriate articles of incorporation, therefore, and declaring an emergency on second reading as amended. Mr. Cooney, would you like to amend letter K?
Yes, my amendment for agenda item K, will be for version 4 in the section
281.02.
281.02, remove beginning, Mr. Brian may want to help me with this, if I'm not focusing on the right area. Include any vacancy in the CIC shall be filled by appointment by majority vote of the remaining members of by the members of council. If the vacancy be not so filled within 60 days, council shall see fit by appointment. Such appointee shall hold office for the unexpired term of the remainder of those whose office and vacancy occurs until successor has been appointed. I'm not sure about the tail end of that sentence. So basically, we're referring to the language that's in the charter, section 3, or article 3 of the council, and to remove
Probably what I would do is, since if the mayor fails to provide a proposed appointee's name and contact information to the clerk of council within the timeframes required by this section, the authority to make the citizen appointment to the board should revert to city council and add a sentence that mirrors that, and then you want to put a time limit on it. You just strike the proposed appointee's name. As long as an approved certain date.
Yeah, I did 60 days simply. That would just be similar to the language of the charter.
Okay. And
Just
just
try to, which would allow for special meetings if needed. The mayor could call a special meeting.
Yeah, that goes back to Ms. Marshall's point. So right now, council could theoretically stretch out any appointment for the time between 2 meetings plus 7 days. And the mayor, I guess, would have the authority to call special meetings and move the process faster within 60 days. I guess however many appointments he could get in that 60-day period.
Right. I mean, I would like, and being an optimist, for that. I understand the frustration from the CSA previously. We would need to get an appointment. We have to get it. So it puts council on notice, puts the administration on notice in order to make that happen.
Yeah, I'm just unclear on what the text of the amendment is and where it's going. If I could have some clarification on that, please.
I guess it would say something like if the process, the within process does not result in an appointment.
Where are we putting this, first of all?
I think it would go after a sentence, it
To-
starts
to
with
any-
the mayor fails and shall revert to city council. So that's one event, it would revert to city council if the mayor doesn't make a timely appointment.
It is rather large. Where would we be talking? I'm asking the longer.
In the middle of the paragraph near the sentence that starts, if the mayor fails to provide a proposed appointee's name.
I see that now.
So that whole sentence would remain, and then after that, that would be one method where the appointment would revert to council. If you don't make a timely appointment. And then add a sentence there, saying if the within process does not result in an appointment, the date of the mayor's first appointment, whatever date you want to pick, the date of the first projection of the mayor's appointment, pick a date we're going from.
I just want to be sure then that whatever we write there, that the next sentence then remains coherent, or maybe we have to strike the next sentence. I'm not sure. But since we're voting on
Then council would have,
we need to come
then council
back to
would have, in this event, council would have 25 days. We would have to add the new circumstance to that sentence.
At the same time, if council fails within the time frame, to hold a confirmation vote, the mayor's appointment would be.
Right, that would stay, that last
So
sentence would
council is
stay.
motivated to hold a session. The mayor is also motivated to provide an appropriate candidate.
All right, so what's the trigger point? I mean, what's the amount of days from when?
My recommendation is 60.
Okay, from the point the mayor's first appointment is rejected by council, or the date the mayor makes his first appointment?
The sentence, the portion of the sentence fails to provide a proposed appointee's name and contact information of the clerk of council within the time frames required by this section, or if 60 days elapse from the date of whatever the trigger point, let's say date of blank,
date of vacancy.
Or we could say, I mean, it could be vacancy, it could be first appointment or first rejection of appointment, it could be any of those
The
things.
date,
But we want it to be a certain date that we can tell.
council,
Right, so, or 60 days elapsed from the date of blank,
right, should reject.
without, we'll say date of rejection of mayor's first appointment. Without an appointment confirmed by council. Comma, the rest of that sentence, and then everything else remains intact.
Yeah.
Comma or.
Or if 60 days elapse from the date council should reject the mayor's first appointee without any confirmation vote.
I was going to say without an appointment confirmed by council.
Without, yeah, that's what I can't remember, right, so without any appointment having been confirmed by council, in that event, council shall appoint a citizen to serve on the board by majority vote of council within 25 days. The date in which the council failed to provide the name or, comma, or 60 days. Or lapse of 60 days.
Can we read that just one more time in full for the record? So that we can make it.
Yeah, let me just read it over myself once. Okay. If the mayor fails to provide a proposed appointee's name and contact information to the clerk of council within the timeframes required by this section, comma, confirmed by council, and that appoint a citizen to serve on the board by majority vote of council within 25 days. Can we just put a period there?
Well, within 25 days of the date at which the mayor fails to, well, oh, I see.
Then you've got to add the second.
Yeah, you're right, yeah, within 25 days.
Well, you can cross out the rest of this. 25-day time period runs from that point. 60 days expire or the mayor missing the deadline.
Yeah, I think because those are notable time periods either way.
All right, so we all understand?
And essentially, at the bookend of that, if council is not holding a meeting to confirm the appointment, then it reverts back.
Right, and it's not only holding a meeting, you guys actually have to take a vote.
Yes.
You guys have to affirmatively reject somebody, so it's.
We are both on the clock.
Senate, right?
Ms. Sands? Thank you. And I thank you for Councilman Cooney for putting so much effort into this. However, I do have two reservations. One is that may be too long of a period between approval points because this is a sensitive situation with the garage where there may likely be outside deadlines that could lapse in the meantime. The second reservation is there's too many opportunities to reject and embarrass residents in this process. So I want to illustrate how this is different, for example, from an open council position whereby residents knowingly submit their resumes into a competitive situation. This should not be a competitive situation per se. It is, and I just worry every however many days a resident will be rejected, and if that could be problematic. So those are my reservations. Thank you.
Rock mentioned before, and that's
less than a quarter.
Oh, of course, like, no, individually. Mr. King?
Thank you, Vice Mayor. Councilwoman Sachs, I understand your reservations. I think we have to start trusting, at least to the extent some level of trust, to get things going. I think that we'll be surprised at how quickly this gets built. I think we have to start somewhere. I think we've had some great conversation here. We had great conversation in the council committee of the whole. I think that we can get this done.
Forgive me, but does not respond to me or reach out. So I don't have much faith unless you lead the way and maybe convince the mayor or help him understand the value to speaking to each other, answering questions, answering an email, a text, a call. So I've been on council 2.5 years, and I would love to see that collaboration and cooperation. And I am an optimistic person, but I'm also realistic. Thank you.
Read by the law director.
I'm satisfied.
Mr. Bryan, is that amendment the way that you read it enough to make a motion, or should we read it one more time? Okay, so Mr. Cooney, would you like to make a motion?
I'd like to make a motion to amend agenda item K, version 4, with the
Suspend the rules and then, or no, it's second reading.
Second reading. So we'll make a motion for ordinance 2024-30 to pass that ordinance.
Wait, that suspension goes first?
We don't need to suspend the rules, it's on second reading. So, Mrs. Thomas, will you call the roll?
Mr. King?
Point of order. Do we need it to pass on emergency regardless though, because is an emergency declared on this? Because we're gonna need to file these articles in 30 days.
It's drafted as emergency legislation.
Okay, thank you for the clarification.
Yes.
It's on second reading.
The ordinance is drafted, it's just not written properly on the agenda.
Right.
Should we modify the agenda?
So yeah, just make the motion to pass on emergency.
Right, it doesn't require a suspension, but it does require a vote of 5, because then it goes into effect as soon as the mayor signs it versus going into effect 30 days. And we need to file for the CIC sooner than that.
So is there a motion?
It doesn't hurt.
But if this didn't pass, there is another option.
Yes.
So it's not. So the CIC has an opportunity to still. That is
Advice me.
Yeah.
Since we have suddenly started discussing the motion, let us clarify it. We are now voting this on emergency.
We just voted to pass the amendment.
I know that.
Now, I did not realize it is written emergency. It was not written on the agenda as emergency.
Okay, so we're discussing the ordinance. I would like to back up to something the mayor just said, which is we need to pass this now because we need to get this filed. Because if I recall, the mayor also said about the CIC or documents for this, we didn't need to do this now because this wasn't going to be filed right away. Now suddenly we have to file this right away. This is becoming a little bit of a habit with University Square. We got the last set of legislation the Friday before the meeting. We have TIF legislation in our packet the Friday before the meeting. And I do believe at the last meeting, the mayor indicated he would be willing, and we all wanted Mr. McConville to come in and to discuss these documents with us because he claimed he had them in draft form. Now, if suddenly pieces of legislation need to be passed on emergency where we have been told they're not, that's becoming an issue.
Mayor, what is the reason that this is an emergency?
Well, it says emergency on the agenda.
It's not on the agenda.
It says declare it on emergency.
It says, yeah.
On the second reading.
Teresa's right. It says, therefore declaring an emergency on the second reading. Right. Yeah, I mean, I'm just going on what's the agenda here, but I see no reason to wait to file the CIC. I'd rather have the authority to go ahead and do that and not have to wait 30 days. Luke McConville will be, when we get to the TIF ordinance, we got the latest version of the TIF ordinance this afternoon, so I hope you have that. But Luke McConville will come to a special meeting that we will need to hold before July 11th, which is when the Port Authority meets, to answer those questions.
Although you just said nothing about this is on emergency for 30 days, what your statement was about the CIC was we need to get this approved as soon as possible. So that's what I'm questioning, not that how the ordinance was written.
You know what, if you'd rather not pass it on emergency, we can wait 30 days. I don't think it really makes a difference. It says on emergency in the...
So then your statement was not totally correct that you just made.
I don't know what you said I said.
Well, I think we all heard it, but that's okay.
Yeah, well, whatever. I don't know what your point is. What's your point? What did you say?
I said it's beginning to sound like BS.
No, I think I heard what you
To
said.
be clear.
Last time somebody said that in the meeting, they got censured.
Okay. Is there a motion to pass ordinance 2024-30 on emergency?
So moved.
Is there a second? I will second it. Mrs. Thomas, will you call the roll?
Mr. King?
Aye.
Mrs. Sacks?
Nay.
Mr. Cooney?
Aye.
Mrs. Wise?
Aye.
Mr. Rock?
Nay.
Ms. Marshall? Ms. Weiser?
Nay.
Is there a motion?
It passes, but it doesn't pass on emergency.
Okay, we are now, letter L is tabled. There is a council hall meeting to discuss that. Letter M,
Do we make a motion to table that?
it's already on the table.
Oh,
It's already on the table.
you're right.
We could do a motion to take it off the table if we so chose.
No motion to take it off the table.
You've already passed the amended version.
That's not the reason. It's only 9:15.
I'm ready to pass.
Well, I motion
All right, I'll make a motion to put it back on the table.
You're keeping it from the table.
Taking it off the table.
This is L.
If you're taking it off the table, I'll second it.
Can you describe what it is?
This is for ordinance 2024-32, amending section 280.02 of the city administrative code relating to the composition and method of appointment of the officers of the University Heights City Beautiful Corporation and declaring an emergency. So this is the CIC, the original one.
So just as a discussion item, there is a council of the whole meeting to discuss this. Is there any other discussion before we vote? Mrs. Thomas, will you call the roll?
Mr. King?
Nay.
Mrs. Sacks?
Aye.
Mr. Cooney?
Aye.
Mrs. Wise?
Nay.
Mr. Rock?
Aye.
Ms. Marshall?
Aye.
Ms. Weiser?
Aye.
Okay, letter L is back on the table.
It's off the table.
Off the table.
On the agenda.
It's back on the agenda. Okay, so just to remind everybody, as Mr. Rock said, there is only one change in this ordinance, and that is how the officers are elected. Currently, it is by the discussion on this.
Motion to approve ordinance 2024-32 and declare an emergency.
Second.
Is there a motion? Mrs. Thomas, will you call the roll?
Mr. King?
Nay.
Mrs. Sacks?
Aye.
Mr. Cooney?
Aye.
Mrs. White?
Aye.
Mr. Rock?
Aye.
Ms. Marshall? Ms. Weiser?
Aye.
Letter M. Motion to authorize a change order and additional payment to Breezy Trucking and Paving Company Incorporated in the amount of $22,041.97 for the East Scarborough and Canterbury Sanitary Relief Sewer Project due to additional costs related to repairs necessitated by a water main break that was not caused by the contractor. Mrs. McAfee.
So on May 29th, I received a letter from Joe Chuny describing this change order and this extra, and along with it, I also got the pay estimate from Fabrizi. So the change order was for some water emergency fixes. That happened last December. So I think, I did talk to Mr. Kennedy, and he believes we have the funds to cover it.
There's adequate fund balance, but in the mid-year appropriation adjustments, I do have a proposed increase in there of $40,000 to support this change order and any other potential.
I have a question.
Yeah, I'm sorry, Ms. Weiser.
Now, I read through this. They had to repair things that the water department did not repair.
I think it was quicker if Fabrizi did the repairs.
Is the
than-
water department reimbursing us for those repairs?
Yeah, I'm not sure how that works.
Yeah, I am not aware that we have made any claim against the water department for this, but this project is subject to reimbursement from the sewer district. But the problem is we have to pay the bill up front, so I need the appropriation authority for this change order to then finish the job, close the project, and then send the documents between Brenda and I over to the sewer district.
So sewer could chase them for the money if they wanted to.
I would prefer that to the law.
That might be better, okay. All right, I was just curious, because it seems like we're, I mean, I know why they did what they did, and I know that we needed to get that thing done and closed. And that was.
And a point of clarification, it says in the letter here from Mr. Cheney that if you choose, you can ask any ORSD if they would approve more community cost share dollars to cover change order. So they're not going to just blanket cover it. We have to ask them.
Right. So
And
you guys
we
did
would
ask once for an amendment, and we are in the process of finalizing that paperwork, right?
Yeah, I don't believe that GPD filed anything with the sewer district to support the original change order from the amount that council had originally approved. So I told Brenda I will take a look at contacting the sewer district after this evening to see what the balance is in the community cost share account, because I'm not too sure what that is at the moment. But once we identify that, then I can work with them to request the additional dollars necessary to support the change order.
Any other questions? Is there any motion to authorize the change order?
So moved.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
Second by Ms. Marshall. Mrs. Thomas, will you call the roll?
Mr. King?
Aye.
Mrs. Sacks?
Aye.
Mr. Cooney?
Aye.
Mrs. Wise?
Aye.
Mr. Rock?
Aye.
Ms. Marshall?
Aye.
Ms. Weiser?
Aye.
Okay, thank you. Agenda letter N, ordinance 2024-41, amending ordinance 2024-24 and Exhibit A of the salary ordinance relating to city non-bargaining unit positions of payroll finance associate, front desk receptionist, and clerk of council, and establish the amended pay ranges therefore and declaring an emergency. Mr. Kennedy called me and discussed this with me. I turned it over to Mr. Kennedy. And this is on emergency.
Yes, the most recent Schedule A that accompanied the legislation was approved May 20th, was prepared by the human resource consultant. That contained some ranges in the document that would not support a 4% increase in July. If you remember, all three unions get a 4% increase July 1st. So that we would allow that the administrative employees get a commensurate amount. I would ask that those three ranges that I pointed out, one is the finance associate who handles payroll, front desk receptionist, and the clerk of council. That amended Schedule A that I prepared should support addition of 4% on July 1st if that occurs.
Are there any questions for Mr. Kennedy? I want to thank you for catching that. Is there a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Second by Ms. Weiser. Mrs. Thomas, will you call the roll?
Do we?
Yeah, this is-
Oh, sorry, it's an emergency. Is there a motion?
Ms. Marshall?
Yeah.
Just because it's an emergency. Five people.
Once. We waited for it.
Okay, is there a motion to suspend the rules?
So,
Is there a second? I'll make a second. Okay, Mrs. Thomas, will you call the roll?
Mr. King?
Aye.
Mrs. Sacks?
Aye.
Mr. Cooney?
Aye.
Mrs. Weiss?
Aye.
Mr. Rock?
Aye.
Ms. Marshall?
Aye.
Ms. Weiss?
Aye.
Is there a motion on, is there a motion on the ordinance?
On emergency.
On emergency. So moved. Is there a second?
A second.
Mrs. Thomas, will you call the roll?
Mr. King?
Aye.
Mrs. Sacks?
Aye.
Mr. Cooney?
Aye.
Mrs. Weiss?
Aye.
Mr. Rock?
Aye.
Ms. Marshall?
Aye.
Ms. Weiss?
Aye.
Ordinance 2024-40, ordinance authorizing the advancement of funds from the general fund to the ODPS fund and declaring an emergency on emergency. Mr. Kennedy.
Thank you, Vice Mayor. This is a loan from the general fund to the ODPS fund, Ohio Department of Public Safety, in the amount of $150,000. That amount, in addition to the current fund balance, will support several awards that the fire department was successful in obtaining from ODPS. Those are ARPA funds for first responder grants. I attached a briefing memo that gives you the relevance and the dates and when things were first approved. The original part of the award was approved December 5th, 2022, and then it was subsequently, the additional portion of the grant was approved February 20th, 2024. This will basically allow us, and there is a notation in the appropriation adjustments. This will give us the fund balance to pay all the bills associated with the grant so we can submit for reimbursement and get reimbursed from the department, hopefully for the majority of things by the end of the year.
And then, Mr. Kennedy, we need another ordinance to pay it back.
Yes, I will bring an ordinance later in the year to advance the money back to the general fund.
Are there any other questions? Okay, is there a motion to suspend the rules?
So moved.
Is there a second? Second by Ms. Weiser. Ms. Thomas, will you call the roll?
Mr. King?
Aye.
Mrs. Sacks? Aye. Mr. Cooney?
Aye.
Mrs. Wise?
Aye.
Ms. Rock?
Aye.
Ms. Marshall? Aye. Ms. Weiser?
Aye.
Is there a motion to adopt?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
On
On
emergency.
emergency.
Yes, I move on emergency.
Mrs. Thomas, will you call the roll?
Mr. King?
Aye.
Mrs. Sacks?
Aye.
Mr. Cooney?
Aye.
Mrs. Wise?
Aye.
Mr. Rock?
Aye.
Ms. Marshall? Aye. Ms. Weiser?
Aye.
Okay, letter P, ordinance 2024-44, amending ordinance 2024-03, authorizing mid-year appropriation adjustments to permanent appropriations for current and other expenditures of the City of University Heights, Ohio, for the period commencing January 1st, 2024 and ending December 31st, 2024, and declaring an emergency on emergency. Mr. Kennedy.
Thank you. There, I attached a summary memo that describes each item. There's two increases proposed for the general fund. One is the additional $10,000 to the contract service line in the recreation entertainment budget. That was for the additional expenditures related to June 10th. That was approved by council at a previous meeting. And then briefly talked about earlier in the meeting about the $8,000 in the finance department budget for additional expenses that we need in terms of contracting with our software provider to make sure that the entire financial accounting system migrates to a cloud-based service. That's $8,000. Second item for Fund 201 is an increase of $40,000 on the maintenance and repair line. That will support the change order that the engineer spoke to a little while ago and provide for any other change orders that would come through for any kind of sewer work between now and the end of the year. If we don't need that money by year end, then we'll make a negative adjustment to that when we do the final appropriations in December. There's an increase of $200,000 to the contract service line in the Ohio Department of Public Safety grant fund. That's for the expenses related to the fire department, ARPA, first responder grants. The advance before was to increase the fund balance. This will increase the appropriation spending authority to allow us to process all those expenses and submit for reimbursement. There's also an increase necessary for the Ohio Board of Building Standards fee fund. The building department had not filed the associated fees that were required back to the end of 2023. So in trying to get these caught up, I need to increase the appropriation $16,000 in that fund to allow for us to pay the state their share of all permit fees that are processed by the city. And then finally, the last appropriation adjustment is a result of the recommendation of the CIC board at an earlier meeting proposing to increase $15,000 in the contract service line. That again is to cover the legal bills from 2023 and 2024 for which we never received an invoice. So this increase in appropriation authority will cover both the current invoice and allow for a little room for subsequent invoices. But we may all we need at this point in time, and we will probably come back late fall with another appropriation adjustment after the summer.
And Ms. Weiser?
The Ohio Board of Building Standards fee, I have a question on that. This is, you said they were not filed in the end of 2023. Does this cover all of that?
Yes.
Didn't get filed? And this doesn't relate to the fee increase that we get.
Well, it's based on a percentage of the fee.
Okay, so the fee increase caused part of this?
Correct.
Okay. Well, no, we passed that in 2024, didn't
No, I believe it.
I think
is.
it's-
Well, some of them are for 2024 as well.
2024, okay, that's probably where that is.
But yeah, the amount went up because we're
Yeah.
paying for a couple of months last year, and then because the fees went up, it's a higher prorated share for the city.
The state should love us. Okay, thank you.
Any other questions? Okay, is there a motion to suspend the rules?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
Mrs. Thomas, will you call the roll?
Mr. King?
Aye.
Mrs. Sacks? Aye. Mr. Cooney?
Aye.
Mrs. Wise?
Aye.
Mr. Rock?
Aye.
Ms. Marshall? Aye. Ms. Weiser?
Aye.
Is there a motion to adopt on emergency?
So moved, Vice Mayor.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
Mrs. Thomas, will you call the roll?
Mr. King?
Aye.
Mrs. Sacks?
Aye.
Mr. Cooney?
Aye.
Mrs. Wise?
Aye.
Mr. Rock?
Aye.
Ms. Marshall? Aye. Ms. Weiser?
Aye.
Letter Q, ordinance 2024-42, establishing chapters 862 and 896 of the city's codified ordinance regulating short-term rentals and imposing a short-term rental tax and declaring an emergency on emergency. There was a building committee meeting right before. I will hand it over to Ms. Weiser. There were just two changes in the ordinance that I will let Ms. Weiser explain.
This is actually an ordinance that probably should have been passed previous to this. What this does is it provides within the code regulation of short-term rentals like Airbnb and Vrbo. In discussing it, this was discussed twice. It was discussed last month in building. And we noted a couple of revisions that we wanted. Thank you, Mr. Bryan, for adding those in. And then tonight, a few very good items came up, and we voted to amend them. And this would be amended as follows. There is a section that relates to the insurance that needs to be carried, which was listed at $300,000. We amended that to read the assessed value as listed in the Cuyahoga County property records, because some of our homes are not assessed or appraised at $300,000 and are on the books for it, and they may be Airbnbs, and that would be almost double in some cases. And the second one was a notation that carriage houses could not be used, and after discussion, there's like one carriage house that exists in University Heights yet, and it is rented out, and we took that out in order to allow that to occur, but that rental will now be covered under the short-term rental ordinance. What this does, it provides for a rental permitting. There's a permitting. There are requirements for the property that has to be maintained. It allows us, and it allows the police department to more quickly respond also to complaints where we have problems with these B&Bs or Airbnbs. A lot of the Airbnbs that we have in University Heights are actually handled by owners that take care of them with them. The problem comes in when you have the few. What the committee is recommending with those two amendments is that the suspension of the rules so that we can institute it and have it go into effect for over the summer, where we anticipate there will be a high number of rentals that happen.
Thank you, Ms. Weisner. And just for the record, the assessed value section is 882.04, 9, Roman numeral 1, and the accessory dwelling change was 882.04, 9, 3, and Roman numeral 3.
Yeah, just to clarify, it's 88204 A 3 Roman numeral 3.
Oh, I'm sorry, did I say 9?
No.
Yeah. That 9 was me.
Right, that was the other one.
Yeah. Okay, do we need to amend this first, or?
Yeah, we need to, we'll have to vote to approve.
Mr. King?
Thank you, Vice Mayor, and Councilwoman Weiser for outlining the changes I proposed. There's one thing that Mr. Cheatham brought up as he was walking out the door with me. When we were talking about general liability insurance, we were kind of focused in on that. He brought up that we may want to consider adding a requirement for an umbrella policy, which would be different from general liability.
That we very quickly approved.
Any other discussion? Okay, so is there a motion first to amend 882.04 9 Roman numeral 1 and 882.04 A3 Roman numeral 3?
So moved, Vice Mayor.
Second.
And Mrs. Thomas, will you call the roll?
Mr. King?
Aye.
Mrs. Sacks? Aye. Mr. Cooney?
Aye.
Mrs. Wise?
Aye.
Ms. Rock?
Aye.
Ms. Marshall? Aye. Ms. Weiser?
Aye.
Is there a motion to suspend the rules?
So moved.
Second.
Mrs. Thomas, will you call the roll?
Mr. King?
Aye.
Mrs. Sacks? Aye. Mr. Cooney?
Aye.
Mrs. Wise?
Aye.
Ms. Rock?
Aye.
Ms. Marshall? Aye. Ms. Weiser?
Aye.
And is there a motion to adopt on emergency? So moved. Is there a second?
Second.
Mrs. Thomas, will you call the roll?
Mr. King?
Aye.
Mrs. Sacks? Aye. Mr. Cooney?
Aye.
Mrs. Wise?
Aye.
Ms. Rock?
Aye.
Ms. Marshall? Aye. Ms. Weiser?
Aye.
Just so everyone knows, Vice Mayor, there's an effective date in this ordinance of, if we had some time to.
Agenda item R, ordinance 2024-43, enacting section 230.0.03 of the City Administrative Code, establishing a deadline for the submission of the mayor's proposed annual budget to council and declaring an emergency on emergency reading. Ms. Sacks?
Thank you. Just a little bit of background and context. University Heights fiscal year starts January 1. This period is helpful to cities with budgets that are complex due to dynamic operations that may have significant personnel and labor issues, and when new and/or numerous assumptions are evident. When the budget is not submitted by the mayor by January 1, a temporary budget is considered as a funding base through March 31st to prevent a government shutdown. The temporary budget is not meant to be used as an operations budget throughout the year. 2023, since Mayor Brennan did not submit a budget for review prior to December 31, Council did pass a temporary first quarter budget to ensure that city employees would be paid through March 31st for continuation of vital police, fire service, and administrative city services. The mayor sent an email to city department directors forbidding and obstructing them from speaking to council regarding budgetary matters, stating to do so would be insubordinate, threatening them with disciplinary consequences up to termination of employment. When the mayor finally submitted the budget numbers to council in February 2024, it was presented with tens of thousands of dollars in miscellaneous line items, lacking the transparency and necessary assumptions to go with it, required for council to make responsible appropriations decisions by March 31st. In addition, the budget included expenses for events beyond March 31st, and when council tried to do its job by requesting detailed assumptions, the mayor insulted member of council publicly with personal attacks. Council has two main responsibilities: to legislate and appropriate. So the objectives of this legislation are to provide more structure to facilitate more effective communication between administration and council regarding budget appropriations in order to, 1, establish a timeline for the mayor's budget to be submitted prior so that our city's budget can be submitted prior to December 31st to give us enough time to process that. 2, to provide sufficient time for council, directors, finance committee members to hold budget hearings, to work together more effectively and collaboratively, to understand the mayor's vision and make budgetary decisions to support that, to be implemented starting January 1st. 3, to improve transparency through early and clear understanding of budgetary assumptions that have been lacking with temporary budgets. 4, to provide an opportunity for temporary budgets when warranted by an upcoming year's situation, such as when union negotiations are pending or large project expenses are made known during the fall budget hearings that make the case for strategic positioning. I thank you for entertaining this, and I put a motion to pass ordinance 2024-43.
Thank you, Ms. Sachs. Is there, before, I'm not sure if you want to make a motion or do a discussion first.
I don't know if discussions before or, you know, you can have it both ways. So.
Let's have discussion first.
Okay, thank you.
Does anyone want to say anything as a discussion item? Here?
Yeah, I discussed this with the finance director, and I would ask the finance director to weigh in on why it is that we, his difficulties with an October 15th deadline. Mr. Kennedy?
Thank you, Mayor. I just think October 15th is not a realistic time frame to submit a budget. I think the earliest we could get something for council to consider to be put on an actual ordinance would probably be the first meeting in December. Currently state law provides for the ability to have a temporary budget approved. Last year was a little bit of an anomaly. We had union agreements that were not negotiated totally until December. We were losing our engineer, we were losing our law director. If it goes in October, I don't have healthcare information in terms of renewal costs probably till late November. So I don't have any problem with entertaining discussions about the subsequent year budget starting in October, but it would be a struggle to get a formal budget that would not then subsequently need to be amended a number of times. That's just my thoughts on it.
Thank you.
Mr. Rock?
And actually, my question's for Councilwoman Sachs. Hearing the ordeals of preparing a budget, I think you specified, would you be okay that this budget be a draft form with basic framework, such as capital requests for the next year, type of special projects, events, promotional stuff, understanding that union negotiations would still be underway depending on the year, that could be exempt, or cost of healthcare is not determined until December, that portion could be exempt, or that could be an estimate, but that the framework be placed in such a way that we could have a fruitful discussion starting in October, specifically around the things that we typically talk about in the budgeting. You know, what are your needs for next year? So there's a lot of things we know. That doesn't really change from year to year. It sounds like the information that changes slightly from year to year we don't have at that point, and that's fine for me. But I want to get to the root of, you know, what's the capital request for the year. So would you be open to that?
I think those are both excellent points. My question back is there are several meetings that need to take place with department directors and finance committee. What's realistically, what kind of time frame is needed?
We've had healthy budget discussions and healthy budget cycles. We've had a minimum of 3 meetings. We've had meetings with each director. Those were 1 to 2 meetings each. So we didn't do all directors in one evening. We split it up like 3 and 3. So that gave us the opportunity to really do a deep dive into their specific budgets. And we have started in October in previous years. And we all know we have scheduling problems, and I know that this council in particular would like to attend all of those budget meetings. So we had those 2 meetings, and then the finance meeting, the finance committee meets at least 2 times also. 1 to 2 times. So we're talking 3 to 4 meetings. I think that's actually a nice balance if there is a draft that, with the hopes of by that second meeting of December to pass, so we know that there's some room with labor and with the healthcare that can be adjusted by that last meeting in December. If the mayor, can, work up until October and give a draft of those, those events, those capital projects, those, those items that are coming down the line, that can be put in so they can be discussed in those directors' meetings. I just think it's a healthy way to budget. I mean, I know that, numbers, I tell you, we have no idea what our healthcare is going to be a year beforehand. We have no idea what our salaries are going to be, what the economy is going to look like a year beforehand. But we do it a year beforehand. So 3 months is not end all be all. It's a healthy way. Last year, I was so uncomfortable having that budget meeting in February. It was not healthy. It was not efficient. It was rushed, and it was not fair to the residents to have it the way that it was. I think it's good all around. If, again, it's a draft. Drafts change. So, and
it's for the municipal facilities, but it doesn't hold back the whole operations. So I think that this is a great conversation, and I don't think October 15th is a line in the sand for the final budget after hearing this. But it is a step in the direction of, we talked about communication earlier, about the CIC. I mean, let's communicate. Let's talk about it. Let's put it forward. It's for wonderful things in University Heights. And to that point, I mean, I don't know how many, I'm not polling or anything, how many people around this table have actually been responsible to prepare and submit a budget. It's one thing to follow a budget, and you've got to follow your budget and respect that. To actually prepare it and submit it for approval and for working with committees, organizations, board of directors. I know I have, and I've said it year after year. I can't believe we're waiting until after the first of the year to even get assumptions, which we still have to tease through because there's so much miscellaneous. The assumptions just aren't there. So once we find them, some are very exciting and wonderful, and why not just put them on the table? Let's talk about it and move it forward and be all on the same team going into the new year. Yeah,
I'd like to talk a little bit about communications. I didn't know anything about this ordinance until half an hour before I received the draft. I was never asked, but I thought about an October 15th date. Mr. Kennedy wasn't asked before this ordinance was drafted, but he thought about an October 15th date. And there were a lot of problems with it. And I'd like to remind everyone that the directive I gave about not talking to directors was done out of desperation because I had an end run done around me demanding budgets from department heads. I wasn't even included in the request. That shouldn't happen. And it was because council wasn't working with the mayor's office on the budget that happened. And now here we have another our way or the highway deadline being imposed, on the administration, not just on me. I know you all don't like me, but also on Mr. Kennedy and all the other department heads who will have to work on budgets prematurely. And this is ill-considered, and clearly, no conversation was had, with the people that it was affected by this the most. I don't know how this benefits the residents one bit. This doesn't benefit one resident one bit. You didn't have your budget meeting till February 27th, but you had our budget all month. And then you passed it by and large, and then you, through committee. And then 1 week later, you passed it with a month to spare. So you had more time you could have taken if you felt like you needed it, and you didn't take the time. Now, you did make a lot of assumptions, and a lot of things were said that were kind of embarrassing, that are still kind of hanging out there. But the, how you conduct and comport yourselves with regard to the budgetary process should not result in requiring the finance director and the mayor and all the department heads to submit a budget by October 15th. Other cities don't do that. Plenty of other cities don't do that. It is wildly deviates from the past practice, not just of this administration, but of all previous administrations, to be having budgets submitted by October 15th. And the idea that we're considering this today on emergency without any discussion with administration is, well, it may just be smoke from another fire. Thank you.
Ms. Weiser?
Budgets or plans. Probably the people that have been on the finance committee for any number of years are well aware that there have been healthy discussions in this city with the departments about their needs and their wants that predate a physical absolute budget being presented. University Heights, like most cities, hands us 82 pages of numbers, and those 82 pages of numbers fund the city and all their departments. They don't tell us anything about the value we get for those 82 pages. They don't tell us the plans behind those 82 pages. They're 82 pages. So usually in healthy cities, they do have budget discussions, and sometimes there's differences between councils and administrations. And in those healthy discussions, a lot can get hammered out, and a lot can get clarified that leads to council being very supportive of things that mayors want, because explanations happen. That's hard to do when you're facing a 6-week deadline. I think part of what may have generated this, and I actually really didn't have any part in this, amazingly, is that the way the whole budget process happened last year, and there was an assumption on the part of the administration that asking to talk to the department heads about their units and what they needed and wanted somehow was absolutely terrible, and council was asking for budget numbers. Those two things are very, very different. They help the council understand the 82 pages of numbers. We know how many people work in a department, we know the personnel, we know because of the contracts, we know what the personnel costs are, but there's also lots of other stuff in there that isn't as clearly explained, nor at times administrations want to explain. So there's always tension in that process as well. But I cannot, for as long as I've been on finance advisory, which dates back to the Rothschild days, ever recall a mayor handing council a budget in February, along with any mayor ever writing an email to the department head saying, if you do this, I will. That was truly a one-time experience for the city of University Heights. It may have satisfied niche. It might have made somebody happy. but it was a disservice to the residents and to this community. You can decide you want to be at war, Mayor, with the council, but what you do then drifts down to being at war with the residents that we all are supposed to serve. If we can't get answers, we can't answer them. And every single one of the 8 of us is answerable to them. We're not answerable to you. We're answerable to them. You're not totally answerable to us. You're answerable to them. It's the democratic process. It doesn't fit your vision, and I recognize that. And that remains the problem between council and the mayor. And it's going to be the problem between and I'll wait until you're done with your phone. If you want to text, you can text.
No, I'm looking something up in response to something you
Okay,
said. I'll be
okay.
happy to share it with you as soon as you're done.
Good, I appreciate that. I'll even wait.
You have any curse words you want to add while you're there?
Pardon me?
You want to curse again for the record while you're at it?
I would apologize for what I said. I have no problem doing that. I can admit when I'm wrong. Unfortunately, some other people can't. Back to the budget. Back to the budget.
You have the floor. What are you waiting for?
Well, you're talking now.
Oh, my God.
All right. It is actually critical for something to be done. I do agree, and I can appreciate Mr. Kennedy's comments. And actually, I talked to Mrs. Sachs when this was put on the agenda. I had a long discussion with her about the October date. Do you know, she's very easy to talk to. We didn't agree on everything, but she said, well, maybe you're right, maybe I could go to November. I don't know if it's so much wanting 82 pages of numbers in November as it is allowing discussion about the overall skeleton of that budget. And that's not inappropriate. That isn't inappropriate. It's not untoward to ask for that. But because of that February dump, I'm sorry, we have to do something to ensure that we get it in time where we're not looking at a February, here, go past this again. Now I'm done.
Mayor Joseph, Mr. Cooney.
Thank you. I have a lot of concerns with this. There has been no discussion with the finance director. There's been no discussion with the other city department directors. There's been no public discussion. This Sachs referenced twice the word transparency. And for this to come out in the last meeting before the break, non-emergency, it shows a complete lack of transparency. This should be having a great discussion recently the last couple of weeks about CIC, what to do with it. We had a resolution in 2023 regarding firearms that we all supported when presented with that resolution that we referred back to committee. I'm not saying I support this ordinance or not. At a minimum, this should be put into the finance committee. I would like to hear from the departments, the directors. Does that place an undue burden on them? What can be done? Is mid-October realistic? Should be a different date. When we do receive a draft, what should be in the draft? Because right now we're spitballing. We're turning this into a committee meeting right now. And the fact this is on emergency is an extreme lack of transparency. My concern, the votes had been counted. Because I probably wouldn't want to bring something up at the last meeting before the summer break on emergency unless I knew it was going to get through. I'm not saying Mrs. Sachs did that. I'm saying that it's given that appearance. If we're going to have a robust discussion about this, at a minimum, finance committee, potentially the committee of the whole, if needed, I would like to hear from the directors. Can they do it? Is October realistic? Is November realistic? Is December realistic? I don't know. And I'm not going to speak for them, but I want to hear what they have to say. So I think we should consider this, moving this to a committee for a more robust discussion to flesh out the details as we've been able to do recently, and it's working, and see where we end up at the end.
Thank you, Mr. Cooney. Just a couple things. I know in terms of, if you're saying Mrs. Sachs hold people, she just told me that she was putting it on the agenda. She did not hold me personally, so I just wanted to let you know that. In the past, even with Mayor Brennan, we've had a budget early. All of the directors have always given their draft budgets with directors' meetings early. This was the first time ever that they were not allowed to speak to the Finance Committee or to any council member. They have always presented their budgets early. So in terms of that, they have no problem with that. Again, I can hear what you're saying, that it should go in with this specific ordinance, though, is that we'll come back in September and the budget is due in December already. So I can see what Mrs. Sachs's angst is with this. I'm actually okay moving the date to November 15th or later. But again, it's a framework. It's not a final budget. Even more so, I want to make sure that council members are not forbidden to speak to directors. That for sure not. I mean, it's illegal anyways. But besides that, the Finance Committee must be able to speak to directors and hold those directors' meetings, because without that, the budget can't go forward anyways like it did this year.
Can I ask a point of clarification?
Yeah, Ms. Wiseman.
Vice Mayor, you keep saying you want to meet with the directors about their budgets. I struggle with that to some degree, especially in something like October or November. To me, at that point, it's more of a discussion about needs and wants than it is about numbers. I think when we talk about numbers, we're talking, and perhaps that may have contributed to some of the confusion on the part of the mayor, whereas you want the budget. Is it that we want the budget, or is it that we want a discussion about wants and needs? Those are two different things, and oddly enough, the wants and needs, they might, if I remember old discussions, on occasion there's been I think like from service, I need one extra person because we're going to do this next year. It's not a matter of this line item will increase this amount, and it's also, we're having trouble with truck blah, and we're going to have to replace it, or fire says we're coming up on having to deal with an ambulance in the next 2 years, where there's more of that healthy discussion that used to happen, but it isn't a matter of, it's budgets to me. If I say budget to Mr. Kennedy, he thinks dollars, because he's the finance director. That's what he thinks, numbers. But budgets in general, as far as we're concerned, is that portion of it is what is it that underpins the numbers, because we do not have a performance-based budget. The administration gives us numbers for every department. We have no outcome data. We might have some outputs here and there, but outputs are not outcomes. We have no performance data. Are our departments actually operating at a high performance, mid performance, sluggish? Who knows? All we know is we based it on we do line item, and every city in the world does this. and okay, next year it goes up 4%, that's unhelpful. But sometimes in those budget meetings, you come up with, oh, what about this, what about that? And you end up with a better decision for the city. All of this needs to get city focused from all of us. If we do that, we'll start talking to one another.
Yeah, those directors' meetings are needs and wants meetings. Ms. Weiser and I have been, Ms. Weiser much longer than me, but 12 or 15 years I've been on the finance committee. Ms. Weiser, she mentioned before, Rothschild. Those directors' meetings are so important. They are not budget meetings. They are having them explain to us what they need for the coming year. And then we take them and apply it to the budget when we get the numbers and make those decisions if we can afford it or not. What are their priorities? We need to know what their priorities are, and that.
There's one other thing though on that. That also gets tempered by the administration as well.
Sure.
And that always has, where the administration may say, yeah, that's what they want, how funds are distributed throughout the departments, and it's more collaborative, which is, and it is, that's healthy budgeting. Sorry, I would agree.
Yeah, Mayor?
Yeah, no, I want to make clear that what happened last year wasn't a request for wants and needs. I pulled up the email, and the email last year said exactly the following. Hello, please send me your budget requests, at least before the meeting in December. Thank you, Michelle. It wasn't wants and needs, it was budget requests. This was sent to department heads. Not sent to me. I was circumvented. And my response to that, to my department heads, was to remind them, and eventually to remind the finance committee, that under the charter of the city expressly states that it's the mayor that shall be responsible for the preparation and submission to the council of the annual estimate of receipts and expenditures and appropriation measure. As mayor, the administration's budgetary requests are made in the form of the overall budget. And this is to your point, Ms. Weiser. There may be wants and needs, but sometimes I have to tell department heads, you may want that, but we're not putting that in the budget. And I don't want you going to council demanding something that the administration is not putting in the budget.
Why don't you find the first email that I sent? And the department heads know for the last 8 years what that means, that it's wants and needs.
That's not what this says. This
Look
says,
for the
please,
first.
I don't have your first email. I don't have every email you send to my department heads. I have this email.
Ms. Sands?
Thank you. So I appreciate you saying that I strive for transparency. My emphasis in this, I said 8 times instead of 2 times transparency, 8 times assumptions, communication, budgetary hearings. That's what this strives to do. Improve communication of what is needed so we can understand what they want to, the mayor and the department heads as administration are looking for the city for the next year, for council to be able to collaborate, understand, and appropriate. So that's my emphasis, and if I wasn't clear, I'm clarifying it now.
Mr. Cooney?
To improve the communication, you're not even speaking to those that are being impacted by it. To pass this without their input, be irresponsible. Mr. Kennedy already said, mid-October is not realistic. I would like to hear from the other department heads. And they should be able to have their input if it's realistic or not. And I'm not saying that this should not be discussed. Potentially could be a finance meeting or the summer break, not during anybody's summer plans. And you could come out of that into council. But there's been no public discussion with any of the impacted department heads. If it's possible, are there any concerns that they may have, what's the expectation for the draft budget. It's an arbitrary date, and this is what we should be doing. And we should, quite frankly, that this should, at a minimum, be moved to finance.
So, Mr. Cooney, I appreciate you and I appreciate your comments, but I do have to say, out of all the years that I've been on council and working with the directors, we have always handed their wants and needs in October. I think it's doable to move the draft budget to November. I don't think that's an issue. Ms. Marshall?
Oh, two things. One, we do have a council of the whole meeting scheduled with no agenda now. So if it's decided that we're going to take it to that. But I need to say that it needs to be consistency. Expectations need to be across the board. If council is expected to do all the things that you just spoke of, and I totally agree with you, it needs to be everywhere, because information about it was just presented to us, and then it is presented in a way that we have to act immediately. So it needs to be across the board. Council needs to do it, and so does the administration. Because that's the only way this city is going to function the way it should. It has gotten ridiculous. It's very juvenile. It's a waste of everybody's time. I chose to be on council to get something accomplished. I don't like using my time to listen to people. I agree with what you're saying. But again, this transparency goes both ways. And this is what led us to where we are, you asked my opinion. And for the record, I didn't know anything about this until today. I mean, as far as, you didn't hold.
No, I just talked about the jump.
Right. I'm just saying, all of these, it's such a double standard that is annoying. And then the very thing that one person does and then accuse everybody else of doing it. It's ridiculous. Nobody in here is dumb. Nobody in here is uneducated. But we get insulted on a regular basis and talked to like we're just stupid, like it's ridiculous. And it needs to go away. It's almost 11 o'clock. And a lot of time is being wasted on things that we could discuss, talk about it, make our points, and move on. Too much personal going on.
So one thing I would like to say is anyone amenable to moving the draft to, let's say, November 15th, where that gives more flexibility to Mr. Kennedy, however, with the caveat of letting the directors give the needs and wants. Ms. President?
There wasn't any, I read the thing and talked to Sherry. We talked over the weekend, really. Not the weekend, the little squiggle of time between when a packet showed up. Because I tend to go through stuff and look right away to see what interests me. I actually hear you on this, Chris. I don't think it needs to go to finance. Thank you, Councilwoman Marshall, for pointing out we no longer have anything in the COW that we all agreed to do. So I don't know if Councilwoman Sachs would be amiable to this, or the Vice Mayor, but I would like to make a motion to table this to the Council of the Whole meeting on June 26th, and quite frankly, see, that's late. That's the problem. If we want to try to get this passed, we might have to do a special meeting if we can hammer it out from there.
The mayor said there's going to be a special meeting at the beginning of July.
You're mumbling and I don't know what you're saying.
The mayor said there's going to be a special meeting at the beginning of July, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, Mr. McConville is going to want us to have a special meeting where he will address University Square, so there would be a special meeting, hopefully, in early July.
That special meeting will not come with things you want immediately passed, is that coming with ordinances for passage?
Well, Well, we have the TIF ordinance up on first reading.
Well, we have TIF, I understand that, TIF is in front of us.
I don't know what else Mr. McConnell is going to need for that meeting. My assumption is that it's just a TIF. I don't know that.
In July I would say let's do discuss it at the Cal on the 26th, because we all agreed to come and really have open discussion about it, but I don't want it to sit in there. I mean, I would want it to come back out so that we move on it. So Councilman Cooney, so both sides know that something has to be done in the last quarter of this year. I would think, and if I ask Mr. Kennedy, and he'll hate me for this, what, 94% of the budget is basically the same with minor tweaks for inflation, that kind of stuff?
Traditionally, in cities, about high 70 to 80% is payroll and personnel.
Yeah. Okay.
So once you know what those, without expansion of resources, meaning new hires, or if your union contracts are in place, that's about 80% of the funding. We're going to have challenges nailing down what the facilities are going to cost, what implication it is to the individual departments, what that schedule is. There's going to be a variety of things that are going to be big ticket items that if you have resolution on that by later in the year, then I'm sure we could draft something, but those numbers, I think, are decisions. He's got the same station as he has now versus a potential new one. It's going to be different. So
I don't think that new one will be built.
Well, no, but
we'd love to see it.
You need to start.
Yeah, I know what you mean. That's what I would do. I take it to the cow with the understanding that we get it out for July, so that, because there's stuff we could talk about that doesn't cover that 20%. Because we're going to be talking about that 20% when we talk about facilities. So we'll have a sense, council will have a sense of what's going on with that. It's the other stuff that we can get out of the way.
Ms. Sands?
Thank you. So I'd just like to point out, October 15th was not arbitrary. The mayor has said a couple of times that by giving the budget, what was it, February 21st, whatever, before it was due on March 31st. Middle of November, that's number one. Number two, I recognize that what Mr. Kennedy just said, we may have some very significant things facing us in the next year. And we may choose to, work with administration, if they make a recommendation based on A, B, and C that we clearly understand before the end of the year, that we can then approve a temporary budget and give ourselves more room. I mean, that's in this. And the third thing is, if we want to be cognizant of the time, we can have more discussion, we can talk about dates and timelines, and perhaps the directors can talk about what their history has been and has worked for them in the past. Because even with that budget being presented in February, the directors may have been ready in the fall. I don't know why the budget is in February. It doesn't necessarily reflect on the director. So I appreciate the discussion tonight. I don't think it was just a committee discussion. I think it was a public discussion that needed to be had.
Mayor?
It's hard to keep up with all the factual misstatements from meeting to meeting, but this is one that I can't let go uncorrected. The budget was not introduced on February 21st. It was introduced on either February 1st or 2nd. And the reason it was delayed even that long through the month of January was because we didn't have a city engineer. And we went back and tried to work out, talking to Joe Cheney and using Cheney's numbers, you know, what those numbers may be. And I had a lot of time that I spent talking to another possible city engineering candidate instead of working on the budget. And I was hopeful that we would have, you know, the city engineer thing worked out, and eventually, you know, we had to have a budget anyway, so we got the budget in. And as it is, engineering numbers, you know, were not what we wish they would have been. And maybe they could have been better had we had our city engineer, you know, appointed at the beginning of the year, as I requested. So, you know, these things can't be taken out of context as they've been. But, you know, you can argue about whether or not it was important that I have a city engineer to have city engineering input, but the budget was not introduced on February 21st. That's just verifiably untrue. Thank you.
I think I've heard, you know, from everybody. I think we can set some compromise here. I agree with your idea of June 26th. We have a meeting, we can discuss it further. We beat it to death here, but we can discuss it further with input from administration. And I'm ready to vote right after that. So if you want to have a meeting following that, it's just, yeah, then we don't have to wait until July.
Can I ask Mr. Rapp a question?
Yeah.
How long do you think we need for the count?
No, I mean, like I said, I think we've discussed this for quite a while. I want to hear from the directors, and I don't know, what do you think?
Just to let everyone know, on that, the 26th, I have a regularly scheduled meeting at 7:30.
7. So if, did you make a motion? Nobody made a motion. What time did we schedule the count for?
6.
Can we move, maybe, can people come at 5:30? And that way we got 5:30 to 6:30 to 6:45 and give us a little over an hour. And if we make any revisions, Mr. Bryan, give me. Get my glasses on. 230.03 of the city administrative code establishing a deadline for the submission of the mayor's proposed annual budget to council, to the committee of the whole, and June 26, starting at 5:30 p.m., and that all department directors shall be invited to attend the meeting.
Or provide a report. They can provide their information.
Well, we don't know what the information is, Sherry, so our Councilwoman Sachs, so that'd be a little hard.
I can speak to them, because they know.
Pardon me?
I'll speak to them.
Okay, so that would, that they be invited to the meeting and can attend the meeting without issue. Mayor, you won't tell them they can't come again, will you?
Why would I do that?
Well, we want to make sure, no, I just need to make sure if we're going to invite them. Okay.
I think you're just trying to pick a fight.
No, I'm not.
Yes, you are. Yes, you are. I mean, that's pejorative. I mean, yeah, you should invite them to a meeting. You could have invited them to your last finance meeting instead of making racist assumptions about Juneteenth that you never apologized for.
Is there a second?
Yes, you did.
Is there a second? Is there a second to the motion?
Second.
Ms. Marshall, did you have a question? Ms. Thomas, will you call the roll?
Mr. King?
Aye.
Mrs. Sachs?
Aye.
Mr. Cooney?
Aye.
Mrs. Wise?
No.
Mr. Rock?
Aye.
Ms. Marshall? Aye. Ms. Wise?
Aye.
Letter S, ordinance 2024-46, amending ordinance 2020-01, declaring improvements to certain real property located in the city of University Heights to be a public purpose in connection with the establishment of tax increment financing under Ohio Revised Code, section 5709.41, declaring such improvements to be exempt from real property taxation, requiring the owners thereof to make service payments in lieu of taxes, authorizing the execution of a tax increment financing agreement, and authorizing the execution of an amended and restated school compensation agreement with the Cleveland Heights University Heights City School District, establishing an urban redevelopment tax increment equivalent fund for the deposit of such service payments and declaring an emergency on first reading. Mayor or Mr. Brennan?
Yeah, I can go ahead. This is a revision of several ordinances, but probably most critically, because it was most recently ordinance 2020-0. We have approved a new TIF to replace the old TIF, which dates back to ordinance 2001-28. And the TIF ordinance does not change materially from the 2020-01 ordinance, except that it does reset the clock, change some dates. At the time that the 2020-01 ordinance was passed, beginning of 2020, before the pandemic reached our country, we assumed a lot of dates that grew stale over time through the pandemic and over time through the recalcitrance of certain stakeholders who finally agreed and came to the table once the bankruptcy was filed. The point is that the 2020-01 TIF ordinance replacing the old TIF or the current TIF is substantially the form that we would want going forward, but the dates need to be reset to reflect where we are now in the calendar. There were some questions that the school district had through council with respect to these changes. Answers have been supplied through our council, our legal counsel, but we do not yet have the response to those responses from the school district where we would want to pass this tonight. Therefore, it's on first reading. We do expect to hear from the school district shortly, and then we would have Mr. McConville come in for a special meeting before the July 11th meeting of the Port Authority in anticipation of going over the University Square deal as it stands, going over what the TIF ordinance covers, and being able to answer questions such that hopefully you would then be in a position to approve it, so that when the July 11th Port Authority meeting occurs, that they know that we have an approved TIF ordinance, new TIF ordinance. If there are questions, perhaps they could be reduced to writing, perhaps they could be sent also to Mr. McConville. I don't mind taking those questions and taking them to them. You also all know how to get a hold of Mr. McConville. So either way, but we will be in a better position, hopefully in the next few days, to know when we can schedule a special meeting. We will need a special meeting before July 11th, so please be on the lookout for polling on that.
Yeah, the only thing that I would request is if you could give a few dates and times before July 11th, just because there is a holiday, I'm sure people will be out of town.
Yes, I will endeavor to do that. I know that summertime is, it is it's always a big ask to ask for a summer special meeting, because we are taking away time from your families, time from good weather, et cetera, and people have vacations planned and other things scheduled. So yes, we will poll multiple dates.
Letter T, motion to approve a grant of $25,000 from the Cuyahoga County Solid Waste District to purchase recycling carts for the new Mountain Recycling Program. Mr. Pennington.
Yes, Vice Mayor. Cuyahoga County Solid Waste District on May 14th approved a resolution.
Thank you. Work away. Is there a need for an executive session?
No.
Okay, reports from standing committees, building and housing. Ms. Mosley?
We're obviously going to go to hiatus over the summer, but I'm going to send reading material out to the committee members to take a look at our rental ordinances, get those updated, hopefully to a way that will allow us to handle problem rental properties with less problems than we currently have. If what Mr. Cicero noted to me that Mayfield Heights has is any good, is what can do what and it has stood up in court, that will give us something where when need we can get a little bit more aggressive. So that will probably get us rolling on the first meeting in September. And in order to get the short-term housing ordinance out of building and housing, we sort of we moved the state build contract down, so that carries over to September as well. There are some issues that have arisen that I've been able to identify regarding point of sale and permitting again, and those also will appear on that first building and housing meeting. There remains issues.
Thank you. Community outreach?
Thank you, Vice Mayor. Thank you to, I know a number of you have sent nominations for the Tech Advisory Commission to the Mayor. Thank you for doing that. If you have any other nominations, please send them to him. Did not have any dates remaining for to schedule a community outreach committee before the end of the session. May try to tack on to the special meeting or short meeting before then to appoint members of the Technology Commission. We can discuss that. Potentially. Just a suggestion.
Yeah. That's the meeting. Thank you. Economic development?
Yes, there is a meeting next week, Tuesday, the 25th, from 6 to 8 in this room to continue our conversation on zoning. Things that we'll be looking at is continuation of the discussion on Warrenton Center Road, rezoning, what that could look like, ADUs, and then after that we will probably convene the committee to discuss, where we're at and before the zone code gets too far into the implementation phase. So we'll probably have a series of meetings going into the fall of making sure we're on the right track. But for sure, mark your calendar for Tuesday.
Finance, there is no report right now. Recreation?
Their made a request, Ms. Thompson sent out doodle poll for a recreation committee meeting late September, early October. For looking for potential dates to, obviously, for all council members and other service director and the Grosse Park Pool director as well.
Safety? No report. Service and utilities?
Thank you. On June 10th, Service and Utilities Committee met to initiate public discussion regarding LED street lighting. It's because it's for public service reasons. Residents have been asking about this. It's for sustainability. It has the potential to help us achieve our city's goal as presented by the mayor to reduce our carbon footprint output by 30% by 2030 have in place. So it behooves us to get in front of the curve in a planful manner. As with the recycling effort, with public presentations to help the community be educated in this and figure out the best way to do this. That's the plan, to have some people in our Service and Utilities Committee meetings give some presentations. Thank you.
Thank you. And then committee of the whole, will be the 6/26 meeting at 5:30 here to discuss the ordinance that Mrs. Sachs presented. I will also be polling for a committee for a council retreat at the end of August, since our schedules have not worked up until now. That is it. Reports of special committees and taking of action on. We finished the miscellaneous business.
I have some. Going on what Mr. King reported on, I do need your nominations for Tech Advisory Committee. That's what I'm waiting on. So if anybody who has a nomination for Tech Advisory Commission could send me their nominee and the contact information for their nominee. And if it's all right with you, I'd like to say, can you do that by a week from today, this Monday? If anybody needs more time, let me know, because we've already taken more time than we should have, so a little bit more time won't hurt. But if it's all right with all of you, let's just say by close of business on Monday. That would be Monday, June 24th. And then once I have all your nominations, I can go through them. And I would appreciate contact information, because I may want to reach out to some or all of them to confirm their interest and so on. Thank you.
We get a motion to adjourn? So moved. Is there a second?
Second.
Okay, Mrs. Thomas, we call the roll.
Mr. King. Mrs. Zed. Mr. Cooney.
Aye.
Mrs. Wise. Mr. Rock.
Aye.
Marshall.
Aye.
Mrs. Weiser. Aye.